MAGA supporters invaded our
What
HBCU.
is going on over here?
You called the East primitive, but what? We created y'all knowledge. We created y'all science. We created y'all math. Y'all didn't do shit besides steal. Y'all didn't do anything to your. You guys didn't make shit. You guys touch children. You guys fuck.
Showing them the door.
We walking them to the door, y'all. I don't even know how they got on campus. We gonna figure that out, but I don't know. They need to get like a trespass, like penalty or something because
Sending them off.
Tell him it's that boy. He thought he was gonna come up like Charlie.
Yes. Say good job, TSU.
Good job. Shout out to my school.
We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the east coast. You know exactly who it is, Emily. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those Negro free with descendants of the emancipated hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our votes, socializing our suffering. How y'all doing, family? Happy Sunday to you, one and all. I see you, Sheena, in class. And for those of you who have not signed into class officially through the chat, which is the co-host, welcome, Welcome, welcome. Listen, y'all going to make this one go viral. I'm on a mission all the way to heaven. I'm on a mission to decimate the demon rats for their intentional neglect, their agenda of our ethnic cleansing by economic genocide with immigrants and illegals alike. Yes, I'm on a mission. And let me just give a disclaimer. Both parties suck. For the Negro, this ain't a party thing. It's a Negro flourishing thing. And what I know about the demon rats is that when they are in control of the country, the Negro is the only one in distress. I am loving sipping my hot piping tea and eating on my popcorn while the country implodes. Everybody's fighting. Yes, and they're trying to drag us into it. They want us to get into a lather. They want us to take to these streets so that they can murder us for protesting, so that the Negro can flourish in the country of our ancestors, as predicated by the opening video of these MAGA ingrates coming onto the HBCU campuses to incite our youth, to incite them to violence so that they can go to the media and paint them and portray them as violent. You see, all of these people love to steal what is grand about the Negro. And they love to displace their debauchery onto the Negro. That is by design. We are all we've got. And so they go onto this campus, they get our young people into a lather. We're constantly under threat. Okay, my daughter attends an HBCU. We're constantly getting memos about bomb threats and all kinds of meta threats from these racist glacier donkeys, while our children are trying to become the best of who they already are. They've got to also contend with this kind of hate coming onto their campuses and disrupting them. Well, I've got a better solution, because see, what I know about these glacier donkeys is that they love to make martyrs of their own, who take out their own. They love to act as if the Negro is the violent one. When we know two things: the glacier donkey is historically violent in everything they've done all over the world, and then they import anti-Negro immigrants and illegals, dump them into our communities to absorb our resources, and then label the Negro diabolical for their misgivings under flat blackness. This is what I know. And so I am here to weigh in with all of the other people speaking through the Negro lens to help us understand that we've got to weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering so that the Negro can finally flourish in this country of our ancestors. Because clearly, voting demon rat and the couch has not served us. We are on the bottom in every metric by design of our government. So another disclaimer is, I'm not anti-immigrant. I am anti our government's weaponization of immigration against the Negro to our ethnic cleansing, to our erasure and replacement, with our votes and with our reparations, our taxes, and our Social Security. That's what I'm opposed. So go run tell that. But this is a channel to speak to my people, to find more of my tribe. Okay? I don't care what happens to everybody else, because they don't give a damn what happens to us. All they give a damn is to cosplay us, to steal everything great about us, and then to leave us as a broken people, to level the cartels at us, to level drugs, the war on drugs and the war on poverty. They want us to remain the bottom caste because capitalism requires a bottom caste, and they decided since we fought and won our emancipation that we are it, and they're only bringing in illegals and immigrants that agree and want our position, and that's what I'm here to show you in 2 segments because I don't have a whole week to get this done. I got tonight, and then either next Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure. I'm going to keep trying to come back at least 1 time a week to bring you what's pressing on me. And that's 2 things: to calm our young people down and show them a more effective way of beating these glacier donkeys at their own game, if you so choose to. But silence is an option. Ignoring them is an option. Furthermore, these campuses should not be allowing these ingrates to infiltrate our campuses, okay, without some type of license to do so. I can't just go anywhere and set up a protest and set up debates when I damn well please without getting a permit. How in the world are they able to? Sheena says, the Africans and Caribbeans are here to hinder our progress because they don't want to switch places. I am ready for them to go. That makes 2 of us, sweetheart. That makes a lot of us, okay? So, they should have never been allowed on this campus. It poses a serious threat to our youth and can get them arrested and can get the federal funds removed from them. You have seen all over the country them crashing out over their martyr, Jesus Charlie Kirk, who was a devout racist. You see even the demon rats, Hakeem Jeffries, voting to honor a devout racist. Okay? Albeit, it appears the majority of the congressional black caucuses did not vote to honor him. Some, like Kuhn Clyburn, have even spoken out against him. But you still don't get no credit because you've done too much damage to harm the Negro. But Hakeem Jeffries was in bed to honor him. And I just cannot believe how many Negroes are still cleaving to the demon rats after all the intentional disrespect and economically genocidal plans they've had for us. I don't get it. It's not my monkey nor my circus. Honestly, my goal is to reach those who are ready for the revolution. So let's get into it if we're going to get into it, because it's going to be a long live. I've got a couple of videos to share you. I've got to weigh in. I've got to read your comments. And I'm tackling 2 things: the HBCU situation and what happened to our reparations out here that we are still fighting for. How the Congressional Legislative Black Caucuses got in bed with Newscum, the governor, to rescind the little monies we were awarded to establish our own Freedmen Bureau so that we can start issuing lineage-based cash reparations. Since we prevailed on that in a 2-year task force, while the governor drove a $96 billion surplus down to an $88 billion deficit on the pandemic and illegals. We completed our study, produced a 1,200-page manuscript of harms. They earmarked a measly $12 million and have been finding ways to walk it back or to make sure everybody gets a piece of whatever we are due. So I'm going to show you a couple of things concerning those 2 top stories for this week. And then I'm going to do my declare and decree and pray us out with a prayer of protection. So let's get into it. I got some things to share with you. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. Thank you, Yaira, for being my #1 producer last week. Thank you to all of you who give. I'm very, very grateful for your support of my advocacy on behalf of our people exclusively in this space. Also, please share the video. I'm being shadow banned and demonetized And we all know why. Because I bring the TR Ruth over here every time. So let's get into it, family. Stand by. And I beg your patience. I got quite a bit to show you. So I'm going to try to read as much as I can. But some things I have to show by video because I got to weigh in. Okay? Okay. Hold on. Just a second. I want to try to do this in a little bit of order. But I got to find the video I was just about to share with you all. I only see the two. Stand by, family. My apologies. I'll tighten this up on the edit. But there's a specific video I wanted to share with you all, and I don't see it. I want to go there first. We're not going to tarry too much because I've got a lot to share. But yeah, I want to show you some things. Where is that video? It was by... Stand by, family. I apologize. I don't see that particular video. Oh, Lord, have mercy. One of these days, y'all, I'm going to have me someone that can help me with this kind of stuff because it is just unnerving how long these things take for me to get this thing going. I don't know how I... Okay, stand by. Here we go. I found it. Thank you for your patience.
We had a group of people come and start to heckle us.
Why even provoke on our campus?
New tonight, chaos here at the Tennessee State University campus after a debate group visits the campus wearing MAGA hats and carrying signs against DEI and illegal immigration.
Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar joining us from TSU tonight after speaking with both students and that debate group.
Most students I spoke with are calling the conservative group who showed up here at TSU hateful. That group tells me they were just trying to have civil discourse with the students and are accusing those who push back of inciting violence.
This is what I'm talking about. Let me weigh in. I'm going to be weighing in intermittently so that I don't get a copyright strike. Although I should be able to freely use the news and everything I present to you for educational purposes only. I put it at the top of my broadcast, but they still managed to find a way to give me strikes. So the nerve of them. You didn't come by invitation. Nobody asked to debate you. Nobody asked for you to come. But your white privilege makes you believe it's okay to come onto an HBCU like we give a damn about your position on DEI or illegals. We give zero damns about your position. We don't invite you. But then the lamestream media is doing exactly what I said, painting us as being violent because we oppose. We could never come onto their campuses talking about the reparations that they owe us, talking about the exonerations of the Negro who were wrongfully accused of murders, crimes, and rapes, the war on drugs, the war on poverty. We could never just walk onto their campuses and set up a table and discuss the plight of the Negro to any one of these glacier donkeys without suffering severe consequences and repercussions. But this is what wanton white supremacist is. This other guy ain't even white. Let's continue.
Video shows spirited Tennessee State University students gathered around the Fearless Debates group. David Cate is a co-founder.
We went from a peaceful conversation with students to...
Does he look white or does he look Arab or something else? First of all, let's get this clear. There are 282 million immigrants in this country. We were here before Columbus. Many of us are indigenous to this country. I've said this before on other broadcasts, but for newcomers, If we were here before Columbus, the majority of us, that means the majority of us didn't come over here on slave ships that, oh, by the way, they can't find any evidence of. None. Okay? So he's an immigrant. All of them are, except 50 million of us who descend from the emancipated. We are either refugees on these alleged slave ships, or we were here already and were enslaved. Let's continue. David Kate. I don't know no antebellum white folks in this country that came after we fought and won our emancipation and had our 40 acres and a mule diverted and converted into the Homestead Act. I don't know any of them with this last name. But this is who they are in bed with. This is who they identify as. Let's continue. White.
Quite literally a mob inciting violence against us.
He tells me they are trying to encourage debate on the heels of Charlie Kirk's murder. The signs the group brought read, DEI should be illegal and deport all illegals now. Let's talk.
Now, once again, I repeat for the 1 millionth time, DEI was born on the heels of affirmative action, which the Asians got in bed with Ed Bloom to upend. It happened first where? All together now, students, in California. They upended affirmative action in California, and our participation at the UCs plummeted. Okay? Let's be clear about that. And then, as California goes, the nation went. Federally, they got rid of affirmative action. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, was conjured up to give immigrants opportunity. White women, LGBTQIA, white men, and immigrants and the undocumented, which are illegal criminals. That is what DEI is for. That is who it benefited. Okay? So it was for them, benefited them on the heels of the execution of Mr. George Floyd by the Glacier Donkey race soldier Chauvin. About 4% of blacks benefited from DEI. Okay? Of that 4%, because black is flat in this country, we don't know how many Negroes actually benefited, and Mr. George Floyd was a Negro. So this is what the corporations with 3Ks and our government are in bed to do, to economically genocide us with our votes and our never-ending Holocaust. They weaponize everything going on with the Negro against us to oppress us and ultimately ethnocide us under flat blackness, blackness being skin color, not lineage in this country. They are working together to make that happen. Let's continue. So let me back it up. The DEI he wants to upend don't impact us. And how dare you go to a HBCU where these students more than likely don't even know how few Negro even benefit from DEI. How dare you, in the interest of canceling DEI, thinking that you're harming Negroes, when in fact you're on a campus talking to Negroes about upending a DEI that they believe they're benefiting from, which actually benefits majority white women in the same way affirmative action did. That's why I gave 0 damns when they got rid of that. Let's continue. The unmitigated
TSU senior Layla Johnson was there when it all went down on Tuesday. What did you think about the group coming onto this campus with those signs?
I just feel like it was unnecessary. Like, why would you come to an HBCU with all that commotion knowing that we're going to say something about it? Like, they're just, like, insane.
Why did your group pick a historically black college to have this conversation?
Is there a reason why we shouldn't go to historically black colleges to have these conversations? We're not limiting who we want to go speak to based off their race, based off their gender.
The university is calling the...
But you were not welcomed. You were not invited. That's just like showing up to a stranger's home and deciding because you're white and you say so, you are allowed to enter with no invitation. The unmitigated gall. Let's go.
Group's actions hostile and saying TSU students conducted themselves in a professional and respectful manner.
So the campus had to come to the defense of our people because these glacier donkeys and glacier donkey adjacents want to come out here and act like our people were unruly and terroristic. They love displacing who they fundamentally and inherently are onto the Negro. They love doing that and getting the world, so they think, on their side for our annihilation. Let's go. But the HBCU came to the defense of the students. The HBCU should have never allowed this. Where was security?
Look at our last 6 stops, our first 6 stops. We have not had an issue like this whatsoever.
Layla believes they were not there for debate.
So you haven't had this issue in your first 6 stops. Were your first 6 stops the HBCU? Let's ask. Let's ask. Stand by. I gotta know. Were the fearless debate tours, hold on, family. Were the fearless debate tours, oh, what is going on with my voice? Hold on. Hold on, family. I don't know why it's not working that way. I don't want to mess up my slides. Were the fearless debate tours first 6 stops at HBCU'S? Question mark. No. The first 6 stops of the Fearless Debate Tour were not all at HBCU's. While a representative from Fearless Debate said they had no issues like this whatsoever at their first 6 stops, their visit to Tennessee State University was described as their first to an HBCU. The devil wears MAGA hats. I'm just saying, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. The fake news, the disinformation, the misinformation, while the demon rats and repugnant clans alike seek to upend our First Amendment rights to free speech. Let's continue.
But to provoke students.
I don't agree with it. Like, it's just nonsense.
All we did was set up a table.
The university says a group was escorted from campus. Kate denies that. He instead says they were taken away for safety. TSU adds they were not authorized on campus.
Taken away for safety. These are the type of code words they use to incite violence and harm amongst our people. And you've got these news outlets perpetuating the lies.
Are you guys going to continue to just show up to public universities if they don't answer?
Absolutely. It's our free speech. It's our these campuses have a free speech area. They're public universities.
The university.
No permits. I don't know of any public place I can show up with my ideology without a permit to do so, without approval. But this is the wanton white supremacist white privilege that I'm speaking of. And those who like to identify with whiteness. They believe it's their right to come onto the HBCU campuses and harass our students, as if they don't have enough pressures in the pressure cooker of life so that they can flourish. He believes it's his First Amendment right to go onto any public campus and instigate what ultimately might not end up well for our students in particular. Let's continue.
He declined to comment further, but the NAACP came out in support of the students. Reporting in Nashville, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Okay. So I wanted you to see that. Hold on, family. God, close that out. I got to close that out because it's still talking. Yes, yes, yes. So this is what we're up against. Now, this is a hi, Brewski. I see you, family. Thank you for joining the chat as my co-host, you and Sheena. Hold it down, family, because I don't know where everybody is. They probably don't even know I'm over here. I tried to put the advertisements out on the platforms, but child, most folks don't want to hear me talking against the demon rats, but I'm going to do it anyway till times get better for the Negro. Anyway, so I want to show you, if you can't stand down, which I implore upon us to do, I implore upon us to report it to the security. I don't even know how these people were able to sit up there and set up a whole table with their signs. The security should have been all over that. These people could have just easily walked on our campus and did what to our children? This is what makes it very unsafe. This is why they've got all these alarms and all these notices coming out, scaring the parents half to death over the safety and welfare of our children. Now, at my daughter's campus, I see police all over the place. But the security, when they saw them red hats and them glacier donkeys walking on that campus, should have stopped and diverted that. But if you can't be peaceful because it's going to cost you either prison time, potentially your life, or your scholarship, your school's federal funding, okay? Try this approach. This sister cooked Charlie Kirk. Cooked him, cooked him, cooked him. Let me show you the video. I love this video. Intelligent on Stanford's campus. Cooking glacier donkey, devout racist Charlie Kirk. Let's go. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. Her name is Naima from Jubilee. She shows up for a rematch against Charlie Kirk. Now, I've not seen the first match, but I was very impressed with this match. Stand by.
He signed the executive order declaring the DEI.
Hold on.
Speaking of Trump, I do want to talk a little bit about his policy on DEI. As you know, in his first weeks in office, he signed the executive order declaring that DEI is both unlawful and a threat to national unity. And I just kind of want to ask you to elaborate on why DEI is unlawful.
Well, based on the Civil Rights Act, which I have disagreements with, but based on the Civil Rights Act, which is the law of the land, it says you shall not discriminate based on color, race, creed, or origin of nationality.
Yes.
And DEI definitionally does those things.
How does it definitionally do those things?
So, for example, if you say you are going to hire a certain amount of people or have scholarships only for a certain people, you are then prejudicing against another group.
Which group are you prejudiced
So
against?
white people, Asians as well. I mean, white people are an easy one off the top of your head. So, for example, in the Harvard admissions case, I said this earlier, the average test score for a black individual was around 1,300 SAT, about 3.2 GPA. For a white or Asian, it would be about a 3.9 to 4 GPA and about nearly a perfect SAT. So you are disenfranchising and stereotyping and prejudicing against whites or Asians in favor of blacks.
Now, why do you think that is? Because what they do is they put these immigrants and these white women in charge of our children's public school education, where they're setting our children up for the preschool to prison pipeline. Our children have to fight up off the bottom of that system. They don't take into account the different ways in which we learn, visual, auditory, all of these different learning styles. They give us their learning style, their tools. They whitewash the history. They do everything, manner of thing to exclude us from real education of real American with 3 Ks history, and then discriminate against us in the advanced education, make it way too expensive for us. They put immigrants and white folks in charge of the education still. discriminate against us in the hiring practices, and yet they don't believe affirmative action, which should have been gate kept by our boomers and silent gen and was not. They don't believe that's necessary for the Negro to be able to have a fairer playing field, a playing field that made white women wealthy, LGBTQIAXYZ white men wealthy, and immigrants over us. But he doesn't believe in affirmative action based on race, which has been upended. I no longer believe in it either because it was not gate kept. So let it all burn in hell. Let everybody lose their damn jobs over race and gender, not just us. Let's continue.
You're not prejudicing against whites or Asians, though, because DEI is not on a race basis. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. Affirmative action is what is intended to address racial inequality, but DEI isn't on the basis of race.
Well,
and like I said, DEI was born out of the Glacier Donkey, devout racist Chauvin annihilating Mr. George Floyd for the world to see. Had the world not seen it, we probably wouldn't have had DEI. But we see who it benefited. The same groups that benefited from affirmative action before it was upended. Not us.
So DEI is a project of the affirmative action movement. So one comes before the other. He signed an executive order against both, for the record. So I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
I'm talking about DEI.
So DEI, it depends what we mean in practice.
So I don't know what you're talking about. She was real clear. Anyway, go ahead.
Practice. So I can give you one example. There are Black-only graduation ceremonies at certain schools, or Black-only dormitories.
But those are kind of student-led.
I'm
part of a Black-only
let's play this out.
organization,
So
and it's run by students. It's not
fair
through
enough.
the school.
Let's play it out. So if there is a Black-only, let's pretend, which it's not, that building is Black-only. If I said that, if that building was
I'm
white,
like the campus center?
no, I said let's
okay.
pretend it's
yes,
not.
hypothetically, yes.
Hypothetically, if that building was white only, you would agree that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, but there
Hold
are
on,
no buildings on campus that are Black only and white only.
Well,
and by the way,
but there are on other campuses.
No,
though.
but in those dormitories that are like culturally specific, you don't have to be that culture to live there. They're not going to not allow you to be Black to live in a Black dormitory.
You would
no,
be, you'd be
Ujima at
surprised.
Stanford. White people do live at Ujima. That's not.
I don't know about that specific example, but if it says Black only dormitory,
But it doesn't say Black only.
But okay, how about this? How about if we had? Well, it does.
It
But
doesn't. Where does it say that?
Just to be clear, well, in the title. But let's
No,
pretend
but
it says
where?
Black.
Like what school? Where does it say Black only building?
Eastern Washington University.
She's dog walking him. She's dog walking him. This is their Jesus. Dumb as a box of rocks. This baby taking on this 30-something-year-old man on Stanford's campus, cooking his ass, dog walking him. This is what they do. They just throw anything out to see what sticks on the wall, to incite violence. Let me see here. I'm trying to find, I looked up something on this. I want to find out which of these schools that he's referencing say Black only. Okay, I can't find it. I got to look it up real quick, family. I beg your patience. Which colleges and universities have Black only dormitories written on it?
Some colleges, like Western Washington University and the University of California campuses, offer what are called Black affinity housing or themed dormitories. These programs, often requested by students, aim to create community and a sense of belonging for Black students.
Do any of the universities or colleges in the U.S. state Black only on the outside of their buildings?
No. U.S. universities cannot state Black only on their buildings. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits such racial segregation. They can have voluntary affinity housing, but it cannot receive federal funding.
Let's continue. Lion ass racist who gets honored by Hakeem Jeffries, the majority of the Demon Rats, and the Repugnant clans.
Portland State University, just off the top of my head, San Jose State University.
They say black only dormitory? And if a white person were to apply to live there?
It's a black affinity cultural
not.
space of which only black individuals are accepted and governed for black individuals. But can we have white affinity cultural spaces?
You can have a white affinity cultural space. The activity is, the issue is
See,
that
I
you're
think
saying
that's against
black
the Civil Rights
only.
Act.
It's not black only. It's a black affinity cultural space. But anyone is invited if they would like to participate.
I would, first of all,
you cannot legislatively
I
allow
agree.
someone of any race to participate in
no,
something that doesn't exist.
We agree. That's the spirit of the diversity, equity, inclusion order, is that DEI in practice, again, we have to go through example after example, is discrimination, prejudice,
Well,
and
let's
segregation.
talk about DEI in practice. Let's talk about DEI programs in the workforce, because DEI programs in the workforce happen to benefit veterans. They benefit people with disabilities. They benefit people at an economic desperate. They benefit lots of people that is not just on the basis of race. And to me, it feels like you're conflating DEI with pro-blackness or black only, which is not the definition of DEI.
So let's take a high-profile DEI example. Is that cool? Just maybe one we can play around with.
Okay.
Which I got me in a lot of viral trouble, which I don't care. Which is pilots.
I got in a lot of viral trouble too. I was debating this guy.
I
you know.
And he kept interrupting you.
He did.
I know, right? Which is that. Let's say DEI. A project of DEI at United Airlines was that we want to get 40% of our pilots to be black or women of color, or women or people of color.
40%.
50. I'm sorry, to get up to 50. It was at like 6%. So therefore, they want.
Let's check it. Were the airlines at one time trying to get 40 to 50% of their pilots to be black? Question mark.
No, airlines weren't aiming for 40 to 50% black pilots. Instead, they focused on recruiting more women and people of color to diversify their pilot pool, which some have called quotas. These initiatives focus on expanding the applicant pool, not lowering standards.
Let's continue.
Make a push towards that, and it was currently at 6%. We look at that and we say, wow, you're going to have to lower standards to get to that goal.
Why would you have to lower standards?
Well, because
are you saying that black people are inherently inferior?
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying
yes.
That black people are only 13% of the population. So you want 13% of the population.
Women are not 13% of the population. Women are 50% of the population.
Yeah, but women do not make up a majority of people that want to become pilots. In fact, vast majority of women don't want to be pilots.
Maybe they would want to become pilots if the barriers for entry weren't.
See that now we're going down a different but equally fun direction, which is male-female differences. Men much more likely want to be involved in heavy machinery mechanics. They want to be pilots. They want to be tank operators. They want to be police officers. Whereas
this is what you do, babies. Show them how niggerant they are.
Women much more likely want to be, I'll get to you, Mason. Don't worry. And I remember your name.
Yes, can Mason go? They won't let him go.
I'll let Mason
USC.
go. I'll let Mason go. But just, Mason, have some patience. We did this last time, okay? But do you understand, at least from our perspective, because it's no good for us to go back and forth again, maybe from our perspective, that we worry that the pursuit of diversity can mean the compromising of excellence.
The pursuit of diversity compromises excellence. Now, he's only speaking about the Negro, not white women, not people of color. This is about the Negro because he niggardly said that the airlines were seeking to recruit 40 to 50% of their pilots through Negroes, which was a lie. So he wants to state the very thing the baby said at the top, that we are inferior with respect to our capacity to fly planes or do anything else in this country. When we taught them civilization, We civilized these glacier donkeys. They knew nothing about it. To this day, don't know how to take a bath. Just look it up on any of the viral TikToks about women still teaching white women how to clean their asses. But we don't have the brainwidth. We don't have the wherewithal. We come from people who build pyramids, who took voyages to this country, who were here before Columbus, voyaged here before Columbus. But we don't have the wherewithal to actually go to school and study and be number one in our profession. Never admitting that we needed affirmative action because they don't play fair in this country that they dominate in. That without affirmative action, we wouldn't even have the advances we've got today. The boomers largely benefited from affirmative action. Some of us, Gen Xers, did too. But our children are out here to compete with the best of the best because that's the only ones that they fly in on night flights. Ain't that right, Joe Crow? Y'all fly in the best of their best, drop them into our communities to own businesses where you give them loans and things of that nature to outpace the Negro. You're using our reparations to ethnocide us, to erase and replace us with melanated immigrants as if we don't see you. These are the reasons why I'm calling for us to upend the demon rats until time gets better for the Negro, because we are long overdue to weaponize our votes and socialize our suffering. Let the 282 million of them as immigrants implode. That doesn't happen when the demon rats are in control of the country under covert racism and ethnic cleansing plans for the Negro and our justice claim. Let's continue.
Kirk, this country is diverse. You can't just say the pursuit of diversity is compromising excellence. Diversity literally just means difference. This country is 13% Black. It's 14% immigrant. It's 1/5 of every person in this country is Hispanic. It's 7% homosexual, and 50% of the country disagrees with you.
Okay,
diversity is America. You cannot say
all of that is
that
true.
you
Hold on.
are America first if you do not care about half of America.
I care about them so much, in fact.
You care about them so much that you don't want to give them
I didn't interrupt you.
access
I care
to
about
equal rights.
Well, hold on. No one said rights. Hold on a second. No. I care about them.
It's equal rights. It's
Naima,
equal
let
access.
me finish. Now, who's interrupting who? I care about them so much. I want the only thing that they're ever judged on is to be their character or their competency, not their skin color.
Okay, so you want it to be a...
Says the most incompetent person who is now being upheld as a martyr. That demon rats and repugnant clans alike believe should be honored. You can't make this shit up.
Meritocracy. You want it to be so let's talk about a meritocracy.
Okay.
What experience does Kash Patel have to run the FBI?
He has amazing experience.
No,
In
he
fact,
doesn't. He wanted to start a UFC fighting
he has
program
amazing
at the FBI.
experience. I got 5 words in. He was the most important thing. He was a public defender.
That's not what that's not
hold
the
on.
job of the
He was
FBI. He has
both
no experience in
Hold
the
on.
FBI.
He was a public defender and he was a special prosecutor.
Was he ever a member of the FBI?
No, but
He doesn't have the merit to have
hold
that
on a
job. All right,
second.
let's do another example.
But
What
I'm
experience
not
does
done.
Linda McMahon?
I'm not
what
done.
experience does Linda McMahon have to run?
She ran the
Department of
Small
Education?
Business Administration in the first term, which is a big organization. She was the head of the SBA.
When she was the CEO of WWE,
I'm not even talking about that. She ran the SBA. By
one
the way,
of her employees was engaging in pedophilic behavior with their
Well,
ring boys
okay,
under her watch.
I'm not going to defend
and now
that.
she is somehow qualified to be responsible for all of America's children.
Hold on a second. She was previously a cabinet secretary and then became a different cabinet secretary. That's like a one-to-one.
Yeah, and then before that, she was enabling a pedophile.
So what you're first of all, I don't know about that instance. If that's true, that's wrong.
That's very much true. How do you not know about that, Charlie?
I don't
it's
know
like
about
very much
again,
public information. It's really important to know that the head of the Department of Education is currently in a lawsuit.
But let me finish the point, which is that the WWE can be easily made fun of. That's a serious business, though. It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
It is, that engaged in pedophilic activities.
Of which I denounce. I don't support that. However, she was head of the SBA, and now she's head of the Department of Education. Tell me another unqualified person.
Another unqualified person?
Marco Rubio
unqualified?
Okay.
No, actually, I think Marco is slightly more qualified.
Let's talk about Hegseth. He's the most qualified because he actually accepted enemy fire and lost loved ones and friends of his own.
That doesn't make you...
Hold on.
Dude,
to run the U.S. military, to be a warrior, not just an academic general, that's very important.
Look, dude, I respect veterans. My boyfriend's a veteran. I love veterans. That being said, not every person who is a veteran is qualified to run the Department of Defense.
I think he's also shown the last couple of weeks he's doing a pretty phenomenal job. The prior head of the DOD, Lloyd Austin, could barely climb up a flight of stairs. Pete Hegseth is up at 5 a.m. doing PT with the troops, running miles, and then doing an entire day at the Pentagon. And you might say that doesn't matter. I actually think physical fitness and being a good example to our troops is very important when you're the head of the Department of Defense.
Okay, but being the head of the Department of Defense is not about doing push-ups.
Hold on, but first of all, it's actually just refreshing versus Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin. But secondly, I will say the criteria is that he's a warrior's warrior. He's someone that was in the front lines and actually received medals and knows what it's like to lose loved ones. The other people that were qualified, Naima, were people that got us in endless wars, people that never saw combat. I think it's finally time that we have someone in combat that runs the Secretary of Defense. I think that's immensely qualified.
Okay, sure. So we'll take Pete Hegseth for Department of Defense.
Yes, he's
we'll
doing a
take
great job.
someone who enabled pedophilia for the Department of Education.
That's an unfair
We'll take Kash Patel,
categorization.
who's never worked in the FBI.
He was a prosecutor, so the FBI's a...
Dude, do you remember what he said when he first got the nomination?
Do you want to go back to Kash Patel for a second?
He said, yeah. I'm like, this is sick.
Okay,
that is
can
an
we go back to
incredible
Kash
thing
Patel,
to say.
though?
That is like insanely inappropriate.
Can we go back to Kash Patel? So he was himself a prosecutor that tried cases. That's a law enforcement mechanism. I think they're asking for someone else.
All right,
Naima, great to see you again. Thank you.
Naima for president. She cooked. That video just gives me life. I loved it. I hope y'all enjoyed that as much as I did. I loved it. I loved it. Oh my goodness. Do you see what these Galatian donkeys sit up in here and try to justify that they're more meritorious than we are? Can you believe it? Okay, let me calm down. Y'all know I am the drama queen. This is how God made me. I can't help myself. You're going to have to adjust your volume because I'm very animated. When I get excited, I go loud because, hey, I had 3 siblings to compete for attention with, and I guess I feel like I'm still competing in the screw tube spaces for attention. But that was rich. It was epic. That young baby cooked him. She dog walked him. But I wanted you to see this because I wanted you to see how intelligent and brilliant and bright we are as compared to them who make martyrs and honors people like that. People like that who sit up here and denigrate the Negro and put targets on our backs and on our babies' backs. And you think it's okay to go onto the HBCU campus. You think it's your First Amendment right to go on that campus and taunt our youth as if we don't have enough of it going on in the entire world. We are all we got. You better understand, and overstand. So let me try to wrap that up because we got a whole nother segment on what's happening here in California. let me see what else I had to share on that topic. I think I had a couple more slides I want to read to you all about the money and Trump. Okay, so I want to tie this to that because I want our children, our young people, please share this with the young adults. I'm trying to reach them on TikTok, but they're forever shutting down my posts, talking about I violate the community just because I'm trying to reach the young people over there. So please have your young people listen to this, because my first point in sharing the videos I just shared was to implore upon our children to not put themselves in harm's way. I don't want our children to allow these glacier donkeys to disrupt the calm peace of their soul. You've got to get to the place in life, young people, where you refuse to allow anyone or anything to disrupt the calm peace of your soul. You got to find another way. And the way I have found that was successful the last election cycle was to weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering. I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for deportation, closed borders. He just happened to be the only candidate serious about offering that. And why is that? Well, because what this country is doing is making these immigrants and illegals alike more American than the Negro with our reparations, our votes, our taxes, and our Social Security. Now, if they can't work, who do you think takes care of them? Well, our people suffer the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, and underemployment. So that's what I voted for. That is what my Negro protest voter strategy is about. You see, when you are loyal to a party, you get bottom cast in the country of your ancestors. And you must show up. It's not just about the president. I'm going to show you next, when we go to the reparations and what's happening here in California, I'm going to show you how your local politics works against you when you allow immigrants and glacier donkeys and coons at the table politically and not get out here and vote against them. I don't know about y'all, but I'm very, very happy to be watching the country implode from the sidelines. I ain't got no blood on me. Let them implode. Let them fight each other. Because they get all of what we're owed when the demon rats are in control. That is how they've used and misused our votes to ethnically cleanse us by economic genocide. So do know that having these illegals here is costing the Negro, because they're putting them into our communities and it's absorbing our resources. The next thing you look up, and you will be California, where we're about 3% of 5% blacks in the state of California, left from 17% of the population at one point. We build it, they steal it. Let's go. So the other part to that segment that I want to stress to my babies is how the repugnant clans and not really the demon rats as much, the repugnant clans who martyr someone like devout racist Charlie Kirk, who's dumb as a box of rocks, can't match wits with a college student on Stanford's campus. He full grown, married with children. They're looking for any reason to take away. People have lost their jobs over saying things against the martyr, Charlie Kirk. Lost their livelihoods over it. And so I'm trying to implore upon you to not do that to yourselves. We need the federal funding for our children to get the degrees, because with a median national income of around $56,000 for the Negro, everybody else is on top of us. They can afford to send their kids to school and not get caught up in a mountain of debt. You're going to need your Pell Grants and different things to help get you through. So if you can't ignore these glacier donkeys, go report them to the nearest security guard to get them up off that campus. If you choose to get into a debate, know your stuff like Naima and take them to task. Use your intellect. So the other part to that is on September 15, 2025, the Trump administration announced a one-time reallocation, y'all, of federal funding that boosts money for historically Black colleges and universities by redirecting funds, primarily from programs for Hispanic serving institutions, HSIs. Now, on a previous live, I share with you how the HSIs, let me get this right. I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to tell you comparatively how many more HSIs there are in this country as compared to the HBCU'S. So let me ask, hold on. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. How many HSIs are there in the U.S. compared to HBCU'S?
There are over 600 Hispanic serving institutions, or HSIs, in the U.S., compared to 102 historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCU'S. HSIs are defined as schools where at least 25% of the undergraduate students are Hispanic.
600 HSIs compared to 120 HBCUs. And those HBCUs under Joe Crow could not receive funding until they diversified their campuses. And their funding was split in half. 45 million, they said, would be earmarked to the HBCUs. They instead gave 17 million to the HBCUs and 16 million to the HSIs. And then want to scratch their balls and call Negroes lazy and uneducated. HBCUs that were already underfunded, crumbling infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. You, Joe Crow, decide to give half of that. It didn't even total 45 million. But they said they gave billions. But let's just continue. So, what Trump has done is redirected the money from the HSIs. These are ways he is seeking to help Negroes. I'm not penning him off to be a hero. Both parties suck for the Negro. I'm just trying to let you know that Joe Crow gave half of what was supposed to come to us to the HSIs. Put conditions on the money that was going to the HBCUs that they've got to diversify our campuses, which are already dominated by a bunch of melanated immigrants administratively and in the student body. Those are the ones who are absorbing what is due to our students under flat blackness. This move sparked both praise for the increase to the HBCU and sharp criticism for its method of withholding money from other minorities serving institutions. When the Negro is bottom caste in the country of our ancestors, he's being criticized for pouring more of the money, redirecting resources to the HBCUs that are in desperate need of it. Separately, the administration has enacted executive orders aimed at restricting federal benefits for undocumented immigrants. You've got the demon rats right now holding up. I think they're about to shut down the government over this issue. The demon rats want free health care for illegal criminals, 25 million of them that they allowed into the country. They're not fighting for our reparations. They're not fighting for us owning more homes. They're not fighting for us to get out of poverty. They aren't fighting for us to have American wages and American jobs. They aren't fighting the fact that we've got the highest rates of evictions. The government is under threat of shutting down because they want free health care, not for Negroes, for illegal criminals. Let's continue. So the Department of Education announced it would redirect nearly $500 million towards HBCU'S and tribal colleges and universities, which are TCCUs. Let's look at that comparison. How many of those versus ours? How many TCCUs are there as compared to HBCUs?
There are around 107 historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, with a few closed. The term TCCUs isn't a recognized acronym for a specific group of colleges, so a comparison isn't valid.
How many tribal colleges and universities are there compared to the HBCU?
There are about 107 historically black colleges and universities, compared to roughly 35 to 37 tribal colleges and universities. These TCUs are accredited institutions, created to support Native American tribes.
The very Native American tribes that lock us out of access to our Native American identifications. Hello, 5 uncivilized tribes who also enslaved us because of our skin tone. That's a whole nother broadcast. Okay, this represents a 48% increase in discretionary funding for HBCUs, raising their total fiscal year 2025 award to over $1.34 billion. TCUs received a 109.3% increase. The UNCF, the United Negro College Fund, praised the move as a godsend, noting that the funds would support infrastructure, facility maintenance, and academic programs. Some of this funding was also channeled into Trump administration priorities, including charter schools, $60 million, and American history and civics education, $137 million. Yeah. I don't agree with that because they don't teach us American history. They teach us revisionist history. My father taught me history. I didn't learn it at school. The only blacks they ever talked about was Martin Luther King Jr., I think Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. They didn't talk about the enslaved who created mostly everything in this country that drives it, that they stole the intellectual properties that were our inventions. They stole it because we weren't citizens at the time. We were considered 3/5 of a man or chattel slaves. And so these glacier donkeys would take credit for our inventions and patent them. They stole all of our intellectual property. I hope to get to that broadcast one of these days, but yeah. So this $137 million for history and civics education, that's just going to be whitewashed. You better teach your children. Get them some of these great books. I got so many extraordinary books in my library that I probably won't get a chance to read until I retire. It's just so many great books about our contributions to building the wealthiest country in the land. I know that Trump likes to sit up here and try to take credit, but we build it, they steal it. That's in all things that makes America great. I'll do the comparisons on a future broadcast, hopefully. Redirected funds from other minority-serving institutions. To secure this one-time funding boost, the administration cut $350 million in discretionary grants for other minority-serving schools, colleges. These cuts primarily affected HSIs, which serve significant Latino student populations. You know, the ones that like to identify as white? Yeah. That like to denigrate the Negro, that will not hire the Negro in construction and other trades. While the Negro suffers the highest rates of unemployment, underemployment, homelessness. The Education Department defended the cuts by claiming that grants based on racial or ethnic quotas were unconstitutional. The move was heavily criticized by some leaders and officials who accused the administration of pitting minority groups against each other and exceeding executive authority by reversing decades of precedent. Restrictions on funds for undocumented immigrants. Ending federal benefits for undocumented immigrants. In February 2025, President Trump signed an executive order ending taxpayer subsidization of open borders to ensure that federal funds are not used to incentivize or support illegal immigration. This is very different than what the demon-radically run cities and states are doing to uplift and enable the illegal criminals to flourish at the Negroes' expense in our own communities. But Trump bad. Trump bad. Now, I'm not saying he ain't got some bad stuff with him, right? I don't believe in H-1B visas for these racist Indians of Brahmin caste. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. already told us when he visited India that we were the Dalits. You know, the ones who control the shit in the country. That is who we were the equivalent of. And they're now in this country in our politics, they're in our corporations, in both the public and private sectors. They are the Brahmin caste, like a Skamala, who likes to slip in and out of blackness for the vote. The Vivek Ramaswamis, the Nikki Haley's, no different than the antebellum and the Ellis Island whites in this country. They're not allowing people into this country that want to help the Negro push off the bottom. We are only being used for everyone else to climb over top of us. Which is why we must weaponize our votes and socialize our suffering. It's not about liking Republicans. This ain't a party thing. This is a Negro freedman flourishing thing. Let's continue. The order directs federal agencies to identify and address any programs that allow undocumented immigrants to receive cash or non-cash public benefits. It also mandates enhanced eligibility verification systems and aims to prevent federal payments from supporting sanctuary city policies. The administration has stated that the order is meant to reinforce existing laws, though most undocumented immigrants are already ineligible for federal benefits. Targeting Social Security benefits. In April 2025, the administration signed a presidential memorandum to stop ineligible individuals from obtaining Social Security Act benefits, which include programs beyond retirement, such as Medicare, Medicaid, and unemployment insurance. The memorandum expanded fraud investigation programs and directed agencies to ensure that benefits are not issued to ineligible individuals, including undocumented immigrants. Let's continue. Okay, stand by, family. I'm trying to make sure I covered that. ad nauseum before we get into the main event. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. Oh my God, it's 9:14. This just goes by way too fast. Okay, facts about. Oh, this is what I want to read. So, when I looked up what Joe Crow did for the HBCUs, the claim is the Biden administration made record-breaking investments in the HBCU, with the total exceeding $17 billion as of September 2024. These funds came through various programs and legislative actions, such as the American Rescue Plan. Addressing funding gaps. The administration has specifically addressed historical underfunding of HBCUs. In September 2023, the Secretaries of Education and Agriculture called on 16 states to resolve a documented $12 billion funding disparity for land grant HBCUs. So just like our farmers, the states were stealing money intended for the HBCU and just helping themselves to it while the HBCUs deteriorated. And they're just now doing something about that in 23. Focus on support, not diversity mandates. The administration's focus regarding HBCU funding has been on increasing support. Trump administrative actions. The confusion may be related to actions taken by the Trump administration. In early 25, former President Trump issued an EO that rescinded previous Biden admin orders related to HBCUs and eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Okay, well, the bottom line is DEI wasn't serving us. So when it comes to these people, child, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, child. It's just too much. Okay, hold on one second. I want to read another one real quick. Okay, so what was the question here? I said, what percent of the alleged billions Joe Biden gave to the HBCUs go to the students? They said about $4 billion for student financial aid between 2021 and 2023 fiscal years. More than $4 billion was designated for HBCU enrolled students. Now, this is when you've got to understand how not delineating hurt us. I want to know what percent of Negroes on these campuses benefited from this funding as compared to melanated immigrants, who by and large come from money. But they mark the Black American box to get these benefits and to absorb them before our children have a chance. Okay, I can't read it all. I just wanted to touch on some highlights of some things. Hold on one second, guys. I'm trying to close out these windows. So, they said that the Biden administration's total investment over $17 billion for HBCUs comes from a whole of government approach, directing funds toward institutional capacity, student aid, and research. The investment included COVID-19 relief funding. Nearly $4 billion was allocated for that. Institutional capacity building, $2.6 billion went to that. Capital finance debt relief, $1.6 billion went to that. Expanded R&D, that's research and development, $90 million for Howard University and 7 other HBCUs. STEM program expansion, nearly $719 million in grant funding. Student financial support, more than $4 billion went directly to students, including $2.8 billion in need-based aid like Pell Grants, Federal Work Study, and other programs. Campus safety and mental health. Over $2.4 million was provided through Project Serve to support HBCU'S affected by bomb threats, which are constant in 2022, helping to restore safe learning environments and invest in student mental health. So, the funding for the HSIs. They invested more than $16 billion in the HSI through a range of programs and federal agencies. While we're still on the bottom. And the Latinos, with the help of our government, our reparations, our tax dollars, our votes, our Social Security, have a higher median income and more businesses in our communities than we do. What's left of them? This is how you ethnically cleanse the Negro by economic genocide. They did the same things: COVID-19 relief, research infrastructure, educational equity, student financial support, STEM programs, specific grant programs. So, the demon rats get to use the black vote to make more immigrants more American than the Negro. And folks want to look at me crazy for calling for a Negro protest voter strategy to defeat the demon rats until times get better for Negroes. They get to declare war on us, and I get nailed to the cross and shadow banned. Okay. Biden's $45 billion promise to the HBCU'S slashed. It was billions, not millions. Forgive me. Earlier, I said millions. Biden's $45 billion promise to HBCU'S slashed, and some supporters blame the president. This is Medill News Service, Medill, October 28, 2021, by Jay Shakur, like Asada Shakur. Okay? Rest in paradise. I got into it with the governor who wants to sit up here and have the unmitigated gall to tell us who we should have as our martyrs. I told him, go get his glacier donkey terrorists together. Don't be speaking on who we decide to herald. Please don't speak on the Negro if you're not going to have a conversation about us being the most exonerated for being falsely accused for murders, rapes, and crimes in the country of our ancestors. Don't speak on us. Speak on your own demons that you need to get under control. Because they want to sit up here and still hold to the claim that Asada Shakur killed that New Jersey state trooper, when we know she was falsely accused. And even Obama wouldn't give her a pardon. He wanted her head on a platter. That's a whole nother broadcast. Let me keep going. Advocates and champions of HBCUs and universities thought it would be a new day under President Joe Crow after his administration introduced his Build Back Better plan in March, proposing $45 billion in funding for HBCUs and minority-serving institutions. You see, that's a hit and a half of your ass, and it ain't going to be for us that we're going to have to share it. Because the goal is to ensure that we never get off the bottom. However, those expectations were crushed after Congress got involved in back-channel negotiation on dozens of spending priorities, resulted in what is expected to be a dramatic decrease. The Joe Crow administration's original $3.5 trillion spending proposal called for allocating $45 billion to long-neglected HBCUs who desperately need the funding in order to update their research programs, create incubators to help students innovate and shore up their STEM programs. More specifically, in Joe Crow's original plan, HBCUs and MSIs were slated to receive $20 billion in funding for research infrastructure, $12 billion in funding for research and development in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, and $15 billion in funding for the development of 200 research centers, according to Inside Higher Ed. However, that top line number has been slashed to what's expected to be around $2 billion in the final bill. See how much they lie? Even before lawmakers and the White House appeared to be near an agreement on the dramatically reduced spending package, a backlash emerged from HBCU advocates and some lawmakers on Capitol Hill who had urged their colleagues to find other funding priorities to trim or eliminate. In September, Representative Alma Adams, a Democrat from North Carolina, threatened to vote against the massive measure unless the package included more federal aid for HBCUs, adding to the growing progressive opposition. We can't build back better unless we build our HBCUs back better. Promises made must be promises kept, Adams told Punchbowl New at the time. Metal News Service reached out for further comment, but didn't hear back by the time of the publication. HBCUs, which represent 3% of America's universities, are chronically underfunded. Altogether, the 10 largest HBCU endowments in 2020 amounted to just $2 billion. Predominantly white institutions, PWIs, total $200 billion across the top 10 institutions, according to the Brookings Institute. $2 billion for us, $200 billion for the PWIs. Do you see why I'm telling you we must upend the demon rats? Many who have criticized how the results are shaking out have aimed their arrows at Joe Crow, who has no legislative power, but does have the power of the executive pen and the bully pulpit. As far as they are concerned, the president has not made the effort to push Congress to keep his promise. Quote, don't you ever tell me again that Joe Crow is a pro-black president, Laverne Spicer, a Republican candidate for Florida's 24th district, said in reaction to news of this funding decrease. Then candidate Biden pledged to send $70 billion to HBCUs. However, as Biden and his administration hobble toward the finish line of an under $2 trillion budget package, many are viewing the funding decrease, as another broken campaign promise. Opposition from the Republican minority in both chambers and Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema has forced demon rats to attempt to enact Joe Crow's legislative agenda through a budgetary process called reconciliation. This process has been long and tedious, as Manchin and Sinema's swing votes have meant the final bill is being sewn together by their personal priorities. As it stands now, the proposed $2 billion will be used for competitive grant funding as opposed to direct funding. In a statement last month addressing this decrease, the UNCF President Michael Lomax said that HBCUs should never be put in a position to compete against the more well-resourced institutions that have higher endowments and a team of grant writers ready, willing, and able to siphon off the funding that the Biden administration imagined would help our institutions. I'm tired of that article. So, that is a great way to segue into, that's a great stopping point to segue into what's happening down here in California. You see, this is no different than when Joe Crow promised on the heels of Mr. George Floyd being annihilated by the glacier donkey race soldier Chauvin, They were supposed to go in and do George Floyd. They were supposed to end Qualified Justice and Policing Act. They were supposed to end qualified immunity. Ran on that. Ran on this. And then what the demon rats do is get in there and they give you symbolism. Like a Juneteenth that we was already celebrating. A Juneteenth that the majority of the 282 million immigrants get time off from work. For something that is supposed to be ours. Because we are challenged with the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment. And it's optional. Not everybody has to take that day off. Then they gave us a hip-hop August. Nothing but symbolism. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Nothing but symbolism. And yet, 92% of black women and 77% of black men went out and voted for Kamala, who told you on the heels of putting her own hat in the ring for president her first time. I'm not talking about the second time when they installed her and didn't hold a primary. I'm talking about the first time. She said on the campaign trail that she wasn't doing nothing specific for us. That's why I have to stay over here. Get my numbers up because midterms is around the corner. So this is a perfect spot to segue into what's been happening to us in the reparations down here. It's diabolical what's happening, but I want to introduce to you Chris Lodson is the head of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, and he put together a video on his channel. Give him a sub over at CJEC, so that you can follow what's happening with the reparations, because we're still in the fight. We're still in. They've taken it all, y'all. But we're still in this fight. So I want you to keep in mind as you listen to Chris what they did. They earmarked a measly $12 million that they've now rescinded. He's going to share in his video about it. And then what happened here? I asked, what's in the California budget for immigrants and illegals? So I want you to keep this in mind as you listen to Chris, because I'm hopeful to just let his stuff run and not interject so much. Y'all know I was born to talk. I don't know how good I'm going to achieve that because I got things to say. So let me just show you. As part of the 25-26 budget, California has made significant changes to programs for immigrants and undocumented residents, largely scaling back healthcare expansion. Oh, look, to address a multi-billion-dollar deficit. It's probably more like $1 trillion. Let's see. What is California's deficit?
California is facing a significant budget deficit. The current 2025-26 budget projects a deficit of about $12 billion. Over the next few years, multi-year deficits could reach over $155 billion. This is due to a drop in state revenue and higher spending growth.
On what? Higher spending growth on immigrants and illegals to ethnically cleanse the Negro in the state of California. We are now 3%. As California goes, the nation is going. Let's continue. Despite these reductions, the budget maintains funding for some immigrant services, including legal assistance and financial aid for students. So we suffer a $12 billion deficit. They take away $12 million from the Negroes for our lineage-based cash reparations, monies that were earmarked for us to build a freedmen's agency akin to what Obama established for immigrants to replace and erase us, called the Office of New Americas. And that's what Newscum and the Congressional Legislative Black Caucuses have done. They have found a way to walk that money back, and it takes Chris to tell it. So I'm not going to spoil that part, but I want you to keep this in mind as we suffer being legislated out of the state, as we suffer the highest rates of unemployment, underemployment, evictions, and can't even afford to buy a home. I was in the market for a bigger, better house that I wanted to build, some tiny homes and things of this nature. I was told my income has to be $115,000 in order to buy a house close to $1 million. We ain't talking nothing huge. We're talking about a house that is around, on the average, 1,600 square feet, 2 to 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a plot of land to put 2 tiny homes, 700 credit score, and $115,000 just to buy a house in California for about $850,000. But they still have money to give to immigrants and illegals, running a $12 billion deficit and driving the Negro out of the state that we love. I love Southern California. When I try to think about being any place else, my heart's getting heavy because I love it here so much. It's my sanctuary. So we ain't moving to Texas and Georgia because we just can't wait to get to Texas and Georgia. And what I'm suggesting to you, when I tell you to get your ass up off the couch and vote against the demon rats in the same way they told you to vote against Trump in 2020, is for us to survive it. The demon rats have declared war on us. And as California goes, the nation is going. New York, Chicago. It's encroaching on the South. North Carolina, Tennessee. Medi-Cal healthcare changes. Due to higher than expected enrollment costs, the state rolled back a previous expansion that offered full scope Medi-Cal to all eligible low-income adults, regardless of immigration status. Enrollment freeze starting January 1st, 2026. Not now. There will be a freeze on new full-scope Medi-Cal enrollment for undocumented adults ages 19 and older. This is only because Newscum wants to run for president. So he'll disparage Trump for doing the very things he's now pretending to implement, because he wants the Negro to niggardly go to the polls to vote blue no matter damn who, to our ethnic cleansing. Let's continue. Monthly premiums. Undocumented adults and other immigrants with unsatisfactory immigration status already enrolled in Medi-Cal will have to pay a monthly premium of $30 starting July 1, 2027. Elimination of dental benefits. Full scope dental coverage for undocumented adults will be eliminated starting July 1, 2026, though emergency dental services will remain available. $12 billion deficit. Took away $12 million from us. Total spending. State budget officials project that the Medi-Cal expansion for undocumented immigrants will cost over $8.4 billion in the current fiscal year. Immigrant legal services. The budget includes funding for legal assistance and outreach, which supporters hope will help immigrant communities defend against federal actions. So you've given them protections while we suffer the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, and underemployment. This is how the demon rat is spending their time and our resources. This is how my tax dollars is being spent. The budget includes funding for legal assistance and outreach, which supporters hope will help immigrant communities defend against federal actions. See, these people are not immigrants that are being thrown out of the country. They're illegal criminals that broke into the country on invitation by the demon rats. But do you see how they couch it? To help immigrant communities. They're not immigrants. They're not legal. State-funded legal programs. An extra $10 million was added to 2 state-funded immigration legal services programs. This builds on the base of $45 million already allocated for the One California program, which supports nonprofit legal and education services. But they took away the $12 million. That's $55 million. Targeted funding earlier in 25. California's Assembly approved $50 million for legal defense to help protect immigrants from potential federal plans. Not immigrants. Illegals. And while I'm on the topic, let's stop pretending as if Trump and ICE and Holman are just being aggressive with these illegal criminals for kicks and giggles. He's offered them $1,000 to go back to their countries and do for their countries what we did for this one, Negroes. He's offered to deport whole families. These people want to wave their flags in the country of our ancestors like a middle finger, burn the American flag, fighting ICE to stay when Trump has offered other avenues. Even the police won't work in cooperation with ICE to get the criminals out. You know, the ones that they catch and release back into our communities to harm our people. They get $50 million for legal defense. They're not immigrants, they're illegals. Higher education. Undocumented students who meet certain residency requirements remain eligible for state financial aid programs and in-state tuition. Financial aid. These students can apply for state aid, including Cal grants and institutional aid through the California DREAM Act application. CADA, C-A-D-A-A, DREAM. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamt for us, not them. Legal services. The California Community Colleges system offers free immigration legal services and support to students, faculty, and staff. Cash assistance. California's cash assistance program for immigrants called CAPI provides state-funded cash aid to aged, blind, and disabled legal immigrants who are not eligible for federal assistance due to their immigration status. Not for the Negro. We don't qualify for the things they benefit from. Our tax dollars are being used to benefit them, while Negroes are being ethnically cleansed up out this piece. Food and nutrition. Some food and nutrition programs remain available to undocumented immigrants and their families. WIC and school meals. Undocumented immigrants can receive women, infants, and children benefits, which is WIC, and their children are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. CalFresh. Parents can apply for CalFresh food stamps on behalf of their U.S. citizen or lawful resident children without disclosing their own immigration status. I've got a parishioner who clears, I want to say, $2,700 per month in Social Security. They will not give her food stamps. Her rent is $2,200, family. And so I don't want you to get excited when you hear a specific grassroots whose name I'm going to just not put in my mouth right now because it makes me so salty that they are in bed with Isaac Bryant, who is responsible for how we got here with this reparations fight. California lawmakers pass a bill to grant priority college admission for descendants of slavery. What difference does it make when we suffer the highest rates of unemployment, underemployment? Now, while you do need to get a degree, he ain't talking about paying for nothing. What is the difference in being granted priority college admission for descendants of slaves without it being free and without a jobs guarantee program? It's a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger. So don't listen to anyone from the California legislative black caucuses. When they talk about what they've accomplished, understand it is to take away from us and what we did on that task force to move us closer to lineage-based cash repair. So I'm not going to read that article, but, well, let me just read a little bit. September 13, 2025, Sacramento state lawmakers on Friday advanced a plan that would allow California colleges to offer preferential admission. This after allowing the Asians and the glacier donkey to upend affirmative action. Now they're trying to use our lineage-based fight for a nothing burger. State lawmakers on Friday advanced a plan that would allow California colleges to offer preferential admission to students who are descended from enslaved people, part of an ongoing effort, not by demon rats, to address the legacy of slavery in the United States. The legislation, Assembly Bill 7, would allow but not require the University of California, Cal State, and private colleges to give admission preference to applicants who can prove they are directly related to someone who was enslaved in America before 1900. All you got to do is look at 22 million of our birth certificates which say Negro. If yours don't say Negro, get your mamas or your grannies. That is it and that is all. We're the only Negroes in this country. Many of us who descend from the indigenous. In walks revisionist history to make it about the mestizos. I digress. Let me stay on topic here. If signed by Governor Newscum, the effort could put the Golden State on yet another collision course with the Trump administration, which has diversity initiatives and universities in its crosshairs. Excuse me, you're going against your own affirmative action BS down here. Why involve Trump and DEI that don't benefit us? While we like to pretend access to institutions of higher learning is fair and merit-based and equal, we know that it is not, said Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, a demon rat here in LA, who authored the bill before the final vote Friday. If you are the relative or the descendant of somebody who is rich or powerful or well-connected or an alumni of one of these illustrious institutions, you get priority consideration. But Bryan said there's a legacy that we don't ever acknowledge in education, the legacy of exclusion of harm. This bill is a top priority of the Legislative Black Caucus, which introduced 15 bills this year aimed at addressing the lingering effects of slavery and systemic racism in California. A total do-nothing burger. Now let's get to the video. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. Hi, SJ. I see you, Johnny D, Michael Pan, real deal. I'll be able to read your comments. Buckle up, buttercups. I probably won't be able to avoid not talking because when things come to me, when God give me something, I got to tell y'all, okay? So stand by. It is what it is. Let's see here. Stand by.
Entrepreneurs, as mentioned. And of course, I can't forget the home team. I want to shout out ETM Media. ETM Media, the number one reparations media, podcast, channel, everything, media, per reparations, grassroots. Shout out to ETM Media. Go to their channel, ETM Media Group, here on YouTube. Subscribe, watch all their videos. They have been 10 toes, 11 toes down for reparations since day -1, as we say. All right, so big shout out to all the reparations folks who are supporting this through their entrepreneurship, through your creativity, through your everything. All right. So also shout out to all the volunteers, no matter what you're doing, how you support online, offline. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. If you have not volunteered or contributed your time and your energy to the reparations work here in California, the time is now. So go to our website, www.cjec-official.org/get involved, or just go to the Get Involved page on our website and sign up to get involved. Add your name to the newsletter list, add your name to the volunteer sign up list. Get involved, get involved, get involved. And one more thing, make sure you are following us on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, here on YouTube at CJEC Official, at CJEC Official. Here on YouTube, it's at CJEC-Official, but everywhere else is at CJEC Official. A couple quick announcements. As I just kind of mentioned, news and a newsletter on our website. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website on that Get Involved page, but the newsletter itself is now public on our website. So no longer do you need to wait for an email to get the newsletter. Just go to the news section, the news page on our website, and you will get the newsletter. So no more waiting. You could get updated about what's going on with reparations in California almost on a daily basis, definitely on a weekly basis. We are at least once every 2 or 3 days putting some new information up there. So go back and check it, of course, but definitely sign up to get the newsletter as well on our website. And again, www.cjec-official.org/get involved. Also, the next California Reparations News IG Live is coming up next Wednesday, October 1st, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., I believe, or 8 to 8:30. Well, I think it's probably going to be 8 to 8:30. We're still trying to get the time right. But sometime next Wednesday, October 1st in the evening, we are going to be doing our next California Reparations News IG Live. So make sure you are following our pages and making sure that you know where to go and when to go to get that California Reparations News IG Live. Please, please, please. That is an amazing, amazing a tool that we are now using to help get reparations information out, because we know reparations news and information the best because we are working it every single day. All right. So next Wednesday, between 7 and 8 o'clock, we will have our next reparations news live on IG at CJEC official. Okay. And okay, let me just set the stage for what we're going to do for the rest of the talk today. We planned this for about an hour. We may not need an hour, but I want to set the stage. And I really don't want to do no like charts and no graphs and no spreadsheets. We talking about budgets. We talking about California budget reparations. Yes. We talking about numbers. Yes. I don't really want to do none of that. I really want to just kind of tell you a story, if I could, because I think this is best understood that way. So I want to start with 2024, and I want to start with this. I want to start with this. What's up, brother Michael? I see you in the chat. What's going on? Peace, peace. We'll start with this. So some of you remember this from last year. For those of you who don't, this says California budgets up to $12 million for reparations bills, a milestone in atoning for racist legacy. This is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. This is a story by Capital Radio. And this is a story, by the way, if you see in the picture, this is, I want to give a shout out to the folks who were responsible for the design of all of the great swag that you see in this picture right here. We know some of them folks, so shout out to the folks with the San Francisco Black Jewish Alliance. Shout out to Ann, shout out to the brother Brent, to the whole team, partly responsible for the picture that the stuff in the picture that you see here, the folks in San Francisco working for reparations. But last year, and this is where we will begin our story time. Last year, California, for the first time ever, put $12 million inside of our budget for reparations. And this was a big deal. We talked about this last year. We were pushing for this last year. We were fighting for this last year. Other folks were fighting for it too. First time in California history. First time in, I think, the country's history, but I could be wrong, that a state put some money in its state budget for reparations, specifically in our case and what we were working on last year, specifically for those who are descendants of those who were enslaved and freed in these United States. So American freedmen, those of us whose ancestors built this country. So that's where we will begin our story. $12 million in the state budget. Now, let me back up a little bit and show you what comes next. So in our story, $12 million gets put in our state budget for reparations last year. That leads to this. Okay? This. Now, don't worry about the dates, right? So you'll see that the date on this, what I'm showing you right now, is May 24th at the top. What I just showed you was a story from July 2nd. Don't worry about the dates. Yes, this letter, this thing does come before that other thing, but don't worry about the dates. The dates are not as important. What the money was going in the budget already by this time when we're looking at this document in May. Even though we didn't see the story until July, the money was already going in the budget, and the decisions to put the money in the budget were already being made and already had been made by this time in May of 2024. So although we're starting our story technically in July of 2024, the things that lead up to the start of our story really start in the months that come before that, May, June, etc. So what you're looking at right here, though, is another part of our story. This is a letter from, at the top, you can see CLBC, California Legislative Black Caucus. For those of you who don't know what the California Legislative Black Caucus is, it is a group or the group of Black/African American self-identifying. So that's how they identify themselves as Black or African American people who were elected to the California State Senate and the California State Assembly. So it's the Black self-identifying politicians who represent the Senate districts of the California state and the Assembly districts of the state of California. So that group is about 10, 12 people. They're all listed on this document from 2024. I think You can see them on the left here. They listed on this document in 2024. So this is a letter from, slide this here. This is a letter. Hey, Ray Theo, I see you in the chat. What's going on? What's going on? Peace, peace. This is a letter from that group of Black politicians to the governor telling him, and this is what I really want to show you, the most important part of this letter. This is the second part of the letter, by the way. The most important part is the part down toward the bottom. In this letter and in this part of the letter, the Black Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus, tells the governor what they want him to do with that $12 million that's coming to the budget, that's in the budget, that's being put in the budget. Yes, the public doesn't see a story until July, but the people who were working on it knew about it months before because they had to work on it for months before it happened. So, what's up, Sister Kim? I see you follow the money. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Follow the money. And that's what we're doing. And so, as you can see, here it says, and I'm going to just read it here. I'm starting with the word that says further. It's further. This is the Black Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus, last year to the governor. Further, we are submitting a budget request for a total of $12 million to lay a solid foundation for implementing the recommendations outlined in the Historic Reparations Task Force report. Specifically, we are requesting $6 million. So $6 million of the $12 million in accordance with the passing of Senate Bill 1403. We'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, what is Senate Bill 1403? What is that? We'll talk about that. Which would establish the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. This agency is crucial for executing the task force recommendations and represents a significant initial step in the progression of reparations within our state. SB 1403 has recently been incorporated into the CLBC's 2024 reparations priority bill package. We are requesting $6 million in direct funding. So this is part two. We are also requesting $6 million in direct funding for the California Black Freedom Fund. This allocation will be used or utilized for community level outreach and engagement efforts and to provide organizational support essential for the effective implementation of reparations initiatives. Okay, that's a lot of words. All right. A lot of words. What that's saying is, we, the California Legislative Black Caucus in 2024, we want you, Governor, to put $12 million in the budget and do this and that with it. The first this is use half of that money, $6 million, and put it in the California, or to create a California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, to create a new state agency whose job it would be to verify that people are eligible for reparations and then process people's reparations payments, et cetera, and claims, et cetera. So that is a necessary piece to do anything called reparations. At least the functions and the pieces of that are necessary. That's something that we fought very hard for during the Reparations Task Force hearings in 2021, well, more in 2021, 2022, and 2023. To put a system in place so that people have a way to get verified as eligible as a descendant of someone who was enslaved in this country and freed from chattel slavery in this country as an American freedman, and for a place for you to go to process your checks, your claims, all your things that we are owed and going to get. Something has to be processing that and delivering it to us. Okay? So that's the function of that agency. That thing was inside of that was inside of Senate Bill 1403 last year. So Legislative Black Caucus is saying take 6 of the 12 and put it in this thing to create this new state thing. Then it's saying take the other 6 and give it to a nonprofit organization. Okay? So that was May, June, July of 2024. Now, those of you who were following this last year closely know that we opposed giving any of the funds, and we still oppose to this day, giving any of the funds to nonprofit organizations. To us, this money is for reparations, to implement, to do reparations. Okay. What's up, LeVar? What's up, LeVar? What's going on? I see you in the chat. What's going on? What's going on? Peace. Shout out to everybody in the chat. All right. Shout out to everybody watching right now and listening. All right. Peace, peace. So that money is and was for reparations, okay, not for nonprofit organizations, okay, or foundations, okay, or any of the other words that rhyme with your organization getting funded. So we oppose both of those. We oppose that second part, giving money to any nonprofit organization, and then next part of our story, of course, let
me interject. As you see, the fix was already in. Once we procured the $12 million, the California legislative black caucuses were on a mission to roll it back. Only $6 million to establish the agency and $6 million to nonprofits that don't do anything for us as reparationists. Okay, so that's pretty much what he's sharing as a part of his story. It started from the jump. After sending us away for 2.5 years to study, drove a $96 million surplus down to an $88 billion deficit on the pandemic and illegals and immigrants alike. Only earmarking $12 million for us. I just ran down to you all the billions that they've been giving to these immigrants and illegals alike to make them more American than us. And from the onset, they want to cut that in half and keep $6 million that funnels into nonprofits, which ultimately funnels into their pockets. They would be the only ones getting repaired. Let's continue.
Bring this back. All right. So we were here, right? At this letter. The next part of the story. So this letter leads to then this. Okay, and I'm trying to make this big if I can. So what you're looking at here is part of the 2024 budget, specifically section 253. So this comes in the same time period, a little bit after, but the same time period or so as we're talking about now, the summer of 2024. In the budget, there was a request for $12 million. The governor and the state puts $12 million. This is the exact language that's in there. This is the exact budget language pulled from the Budget Act of 2024. This is it. Okay? This is the thing that puts reparations funding in the state budget last year. This is the language. Section 253, Section 1580, for implementation of reparations legislation that is enacted into law, the Director of Finance may augment one or more items in this act by no more than $12 million from the general fund. So $12 million to implement reparations legislation. Okay. And the legislation that they were talking about was Senate Bill 1403, the bill to create the state institution to then do the eligibility checking and then the processing of all the things that we will be getting. Right. So we're in the summer of 2024. All right. We get money in the budget for reparations. Then this happens. Right? Then this happens. Two historic California reparations bills stall out, sparing Newscum a tough call. This is August of 2024. So we were in July with money in the budget, money for reparations. The next month, about 5 weeks later, this happens. Two bills, one of them being the bill to do the thing that was the $6 million for the agency, the check your eligibility and process your claims and payments bill. That bill is one of the bills that's stalled out. And by stalled out, they mean dies, stops, is killed, is blocked, is stopped. That's what they mean by stall. That's a nice way of saying your bill died, your bill was blocked. So many of us remember this very well, but for those of you who don't, this was August of 2024, and there were three bills. We're talking about two right now. I'm going to talk about the next one soon. but there were 3 bills that were blocked, stopped. 3 very important reparations-related bills that were blocked, stopped. And this is a story that talks about that from Cal Matters. And one of those bills was the bill that was going to be funded by what was in the budget, $12 million. Okay. So the budget gets passed, it has 12 million. The Black Caucus says give 6 of that 12 million to this bill that's going to do this agency that's going to check people's eligibility and process people's claims. And then that bill that checks that creates the agency that checks eligibility and processes people's claims is then killed, okay? Is then blocked. Actually, by, I don't know if I would say ironically, but by the same California Legislative Black Caucus, at least a majority of the California Legislative Black Caucus. Then,
okay, I want to tell a story within the story. Ice Cube and Maxine Waters were instrumental in the 11th hour in getting AB 3121 passed so that we could establish the task force to begin the study of harms so that we could start issuing reparations to those of us who are left here in California. In my opinion, the only reason why Newscum signed the AB 3121 in the 11th hour, I mean, that was about to die as well. And so they give Maxine Waters, who doesn't do anything for Negroes here, and Ice Cube credit. But in my opinion, Newscum had a bigger agenda in mind. He had a bigger agenda in mind to use our desire for reparations to help him prevail in a recall that was going on at the time, because people were hotter than fish grease that Newscum shut the state down, businesses lost money, our children, their education went the way of the dodo bird. And so he was up for recall. At the same time we were trying to get this bill done. I say this to say that this is what the demon rats do. They only pretend to be interested in the Negro for something that will advance their own cause to save their own asses. So naturally, because we didn't want him to be recalled, because we knew if the repugnant clans were in charge of the state, there goes our task force. We were already in the process of the study when the recall was coming up for the vote. So we got busy, as he knew he would, because we're counting on him to do right by us in reparations. We got busy to save that mofo from the recall. Now this, let's continue. They use us, family, constantly for 70 years to ethnically cleanse us by economic genocide with immigrants and illegals alike. Won't allow us to delineate because they want blackness so the country will never know that the 13% of Negroes is now 14% of melanated immigrants. Let's continue. You got to understand what I'm telling you. I'm living it.
And also then blocked. So after requesting $6 million for a bill to do this agency and checking of eligibility and checking and processing of payments, then this same California Legislative Black Caucus, the 2024 version, then blocks, at least a majority of them, blocks the same bill. There's a lot of media and press about why and all that stuff. I'm gonna just direct you back to all the stuff from our pages and what was out last year around that time for more about why. Okay. All right. So thank you for following me in my story. All right, we are not done. We ain't even close to done. But I want to thank you right now. Also, those of y'all who was there with us last year, I said there were 3 bills. This was one of the other bills, right? So there were 3 bills that were blocked or that were blocked in some way last year. 2 of them were in that last picture I just showed you. And in that 2 of them, one of those was that $6 million funded agency to check your eligibility and process your payments. But there was another bill that the governor blocked, or that was blocked last year. This one was not blocked by the Black Caucus. This one was blocked by the governor, specifically vetoed by the governor. California Governor Gavin Newsom last year vetoed Senate Bill 1050, and that bill would have opened up and then provided for compensation directly and restitution of property directly to families who had their property taken by the state unjustly if they were descendants of people who were enslaved in this country.
That's akin to Bruce's Beach. Newscum, who wants to be president on the black swing vote, vetoed other families of Negro descent from chattel slavery to get their properties back. Properties that were stolen by the glacier donkeys here by eminent domain. Let's go.
That bill got to the governor's desk, and the governor vetoed that bill, saying that I can't sign this bill and give people their property back or pay them for the property that we took, because this property giving back and give you the money for the property system was going to run through that agency thing that was blocked by the Black Caucus folks. So no need. So I can't sign this thing because it depends on the other thing. Many of us right now are reliving that trauma. Right? So I want us to take a collective deep breath by those of us who was living it and experiencing it in person, all right, who had a front row seat to it. I want you to breathe, okay? So, and let me get this off the stage and screen so people can, heard people's nighttime. So, okay, we're still on story time. All that leads to where we are today. So all of that leads to where we are today. Okay. What you're looking at is, thank you. I see you, Kim. Yes, that's right. Never forget 831 Black August, right on. What you're looking at, family, is where we are today in story time. So what you're looking at is a piece of the 2025 budget. A piece of the 2025 budget. We just ended talking about the 2024 budget and last year. That $12 million that was in the budget last year, after all that stuff happened that we just talked about, the bills get blocked, et cetera, that money did not move. It stood still, with one exception. One exception. Some of you know what that exception is. Let's talk about that exception. Okay? So the money that was in the budget last year, that $12 million, after those bills got stopped and blocked last year, did not move. So the money has been sitting in the state budget. $12 million for reparations bills has been sitting in the state budget for about a year, just sitting there, not being spent, collecting dust, losing value, depending on what your thoughts are, right? So I'm gonna talk about what's going on now with it and what is now the plan for it. There is now a plan for what to do with that $12 million, and I'm gonna tell you what the new plan is and what happened to the old money. But a piece of that $12 million, about 500,000, $500,000 of that $12 million, from what we were told, from what we understand from folks here in the Capitol, about $500,000 of that was used to purchase a plaque or a statue with like an apology written somewhere in or on or around it. Now, I have not seen a plaque. I have not seen an apology or a statue. I kind of don't want to see a plaque or an apology or a statue, to be honest. I want to get reparations for the thing you are apologizing for. You can keep the plaque. You can keep the apology. Or in this way, you can apologize with your actions. You can apologize by coming off the money of ours that you still have. But
that's all they offer is symbolism. $500,000 on a plaque. Let's continue. That's all they are offering the Negro. While everyone else becomes more American and are flourishing in the country of our ancestors who built this country with their lives.
I'm just telling you, I'm just giving you the real. About $500,000 of that $12 million is supposedly spent on a plaque and an apology statue somewhere in the Capitol. We haven't seen it, and we've been at the Capitol many times this year. Have not seen a $500,000. First of all, that's a very important, expensive plaque. I mean, a $500,000 plaque or statue. I mean, you know.
So whose pockets did it go into?
So a piece of that $12 million was carved out for a plaque and apology by the state of California to apologize for what they did to our people and have done. But so what happened to the rest of the money? Where's the rest of the money? And so this is where we are now. And what you're looking at right now, by the way, you know, as we always do, whenever you come to this work that we do, you always get knowledge about the process of civics. And what civics is really just talking about how government works. Because I had to learn, a lot of us had to learn how the budget process works. How do budgets get done when state budgets, etc. So what you're looking at right now is a small piece and part of the 2025 budget. Okay. I want you to look at section 26 at the top. It says section 26, right? SEC.26. That's what I mean, section 26. The first thing it says is section 15.80 of the Budget Act of 2024 is repealed. That is a big line. Okay. Section 15.80 of the Budget Act of 2024 is repealed. That is the same section that we read earlier from last year's budget with the reparations $12 million in it. Okay. So what this new budget bill this year is doing is going back to the last year's budget and repealing, taking away, canceling, doing something different with whatever we did or that $12 million from last year. So what this language at the top says is, y'all know that $12 million last year that was in the budget? What we said we're going to do with that? We're repealing that. We changed our minds. Okay. Now, section 27, we're going to tell you what we are going to do with that money now. So $12 million minus $500,000 for a plaque that we don't really want. $12 million minus $500,000. Okay. So it's about 12. It's still about $12 million. Let's tell you what we're going to do with this new. Let's tell you what we're going to do with the money now. All right, let me just put it simple. All right. So the following appropriations, or let me just read it directly to you. Section 1580 is added to the Budget Act of 2024 to read. So now they are adding some new things now. And here's what they're adding. The following appropriations are hereby made from the general fund. $6 million to the California State University for purposes of implementing legislation related to genealogy determination. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
They don't even have genealogy departments.
That is the reparations genealogy study. That is the reparations genealogy study, also known as Senate Bill 437, introduced by California Legislative Black Caucus Chair, Leader, Senator Akilah Weber Pearson.
Akilah Weber is Dr. Shirley Weber, author of the AB 3121 that got us to the task force. That's her daughter undermining us. I think she's married to an African, or she's Pan-African.
So What you're hearing now is we're not going to do what we said we're going to do with the money for reparations last year. Instead, what we're going to do is give half of it to a reparations study. So not to implement reparations, but to do another study of reparations, this time specifically about genealogy and reparations, or genealogy and reparations eligibility.
When I told y'all, if you got a birth certificate, which 22 million of us have Negro on our birth certificates, mine included, you ain't got to study genealogy. We descend from the emancipated. And if you don't have one that states it on your birth certificate because Obama and Grace Mean upended the Negro identifier to establish the Office of New Americas with money that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. procured on our behalf. That's what they do. That's how they hide from you that you're indigenous, that you were here before Columbus. That's what you really descend from. They change your identifier from indigenous to colored to mulatto to African American to Negro to Black American. So there's really no genealogy needed. Because if it doesn't say Negro on your birth certificate because they keep, you know, them games on the streets of New York, where's the little P-ball, whatever they keep. This is what they keep doing with our identity. To hide who you really are from you. Revisionist history. So if it's not on your birth certificate, your mama or your grandma has colored or Negro on it. Silent Gen, Boomer, Gen X. We are the parents and the grandparents of the millennials and the Gen Zs. But they want to take $6 million and give it to the Cal State system that don't even have genealogy departments. Let's continue.
And then the other part of the money, it's saying, I'm just going to read it, $6 million for the allocation to the Tides Foundation to educate Californians on the findings of the California Reparations Task Force report. So this is saying, take the other part of that money and give it to an organization called the Tides Foundation to do reparations education or reparations task force report education. Now, what is the Tides Foundation? The Tides Foundation, for those of you who...
We've already done the study. 2.5 years, 1,200 pages. We don't need another one.
Who don't know, it's a big organization that gets money and then gives money to other organizations. And they've done, great work across the state of California. They've done work with a lot of different organizations. They've helped support and fund a bunch of different organizations. They've supported CJ's work in the past as well. They've done work, but what they have not done is reparations. What they have not done is reparations work. Right. Now, I want to make a point here.
So they get $6 million in reparations, never having done reparations, to study something we've already studied and got 1,200 pages worth of harms.
When I say that, I'm not saying that those of us who are doing reparations, like CJ, want this money. I'm not saying that. We made it clear. We told the governor's office. We told the Black Caucus leadership. We put out on social media that this money, this $12 million, was originally supposed to be for reparations, to start the reparations process, not for funding of a nonprofit organization. As somebody who works with and for nonprofit organizations and has done for some time now, I could tell you there are all kinds of ways that nonprofits get their funding. Our ancestors' reparations money ain't one of them. It ain't.
But this is how they end up getting their pockets lined. These nonprofit organizations are used as money laundering for these demon rats. That's why things like poverty and crime and murders won't go away. It's money laundering. That's what Brandon Johnson was asking for. Don't send us ICE. Give us more federal funding for more police. We don't have an issue with crimes or murders as he's secured by 160 police every day. But give us that Skrilla, Trump, so that we can continue ethnically cleansing Negroes up out of Chicago, South Side, by bringing in illegal criminals and giving them the reparations, taxes, and Social Security of the South Side Chicagoans. We're not going to put it in the white neighborhoods or the immigrant neighborhoods. We're going to ethnically cleanse the Negro by economic genocide. Starve them out. And this is what 92% of black women and 77% of black men voted for Kamala to do this to us on a federal level after she and Joe Crow, she being the border czar, allowed 25 million unvetted, unvaxxed illegals into the country. But Trump bad for trying to get it under control.
Our ancestors' money that they worked hard for, that we've been fighting hard to get in our budget and make reparations happen, it ain't one of them. This will not be good. This will not be good. Taking money, and we're looking at we're looking at it right now, right? What you're looking at on the screen is the exact language of, instead of doing reparations with the money, we're going to do a study of reparations and then give the rest of the money to a nonprofit organization for them to then give to other nonprofit organizations, okay, to do reparations education. But what that means is to fund my nonprofits programs.
What that means is this is the way they uplift all these other groups with money that belongs to us, with our reparations. They weaponize our never-ending Holocaust to make everyone else American while we die out.
That's not what our ancestors' money is for. Our ancestors' money belong in our hands to build our communities with and build power politically and economically. Not to fund your nonprofit organization. Not to do it. So, it's partly where we are now. Okay. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. There's one more thing I want to show. All right? The story ain't done. Okay. And by the way, I said I'm telling you a story. We are talking about a story, and this is, you know, I didn't want to make this very, like I said in the start, very like scripted and formal. I kind of just wanted to talk to the family and just tell a story and just talk. Just talk real. Because I think even people who, you know, may or may not, you know, support the work that we do, no matter where they are on the political or politics of this, no matter what, this is wrong. You put money, so people work hard to get reparations on the agenda and then fund them for reparations. And then Black leaders work with the governor to take the money away from that and then put it to a study and to fund their nonprofits or fund nonprofits that they know. We have been telling the Black Caucus and the folks in the Capitol for over a year now how bad it would be for us as a public to wake up one day and find out that some of our ancestors' reparations money that we've been fighting to get in the state budget has been stolen away by the political leaders and repurposed and directed to studies. And by the way, the study it's a government study. So the money's going right back into the government to do the study. And then to fund nonprofit organizations that they have relationships with.
Let me take a little commercial break because the hour is late, and I want those of you that are engaged to understand that we've got a big call to action. I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to share the call to action and then continue with the video. Hold on. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you in advance. So I put the link in the chat, but here it is, actionNetwork.org/letters/stop-the-stall-reparations. Okay? This is very easy. Okay? Now, you can do this as many times as your heart desires. Okay? You can do this as many times as your heart desires. As many times of day, all over the country. We need your help. So this is how easy it is. We want this jerk to reject SB 437. Read the email we wrote for you, then click send the letter. The letter states, reject Weber Pearson's SB 437. Hi, I'm writing to tell you that I oppose what Senator Akilah Weber Pearson is doing with her bill SB 437, and I want the governor to reject it. I support reparations, but to waste millions of my tax dollars on an unnecessary study of reparations genealogy that even genealogists say we don't need, unacceptable. And to push any chance or possibility of bills to support this community away until the 2030s after the study is outrageous. We don't need to study reparations genealogy. We need to do reparations genealogy. Tell the governor I said to reject SB 437. Thank you for your time and attention. So it's going to these people. Send the letter. Thank you for your support. You can copy the link, share all over your social media spaces. Now share this call to action with 3 people in your life. We need them, we need you. You can do this 100 times a day, every day, until we accomplish the mission. And there will be more call to actions to follow. That's how easy it is. So I just want to show you that. Let's continue with the video. Stand by. And it's also in the description of this broadcast. We need all hands on deck, family. Because if we don't get this done here, it ain't getting done nowhere. We are the blueprint for how to ethnically cleanse and economically genocide the Negro. It all happened here first. It all happened here first. Never forget.
This is wrong. It's just wrong. And there will be consequences for it. There will be political consequences for this. So we're not done though. Okay. As I mentioned, we talking and we telling a story, but we are only telling the beginning of the story. We're only telling and talking about the beginning of the story. But as we're talking and telling about the beginning of the story, I don't want to leave out this piece. So what you're looking at right now is also part of the current Budget Act, the current budget bill this year. They call it the Budget Act or bill, right, or law. The current budget bill. So, section SEC 35. Pay close attention. What you're going to hear and see is some additional money, some more money being put in the budget for 2025 on top of the $12 million that was being moved around already. So an additional $6 million, totaling $18 million in total. 12 million plus 6 million is 18 million. So an additional $6 million is being added to the 2025 budget to do something related to, at least according to the legislation, something related to reparations, at least according to the bill. Okay? Let me make that make more sense for you. So I don't want you to focus on the numbers, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to focus on the words. And I'm going to read some of the words. 1, the amount appropriated in this item, $6 million, shall be available to support the implementation of pending legislation that establishes the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, subject to enactment. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that we are now putting another $6 million in the budget to set up something called the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery. That may and should sound familiar to people. That is the Bureau, the thing in Senate Bill 518, SB 518, also introduced by California Legislative Black Caucus, CLBC leader and chair, Senator Akilah Weber Pearson. So Senator Akilah Weber Pearson has both the study reparations bill and the Reparations Bureau, Descendants for Slavery Bureau bill here too. Okay. So this is important. This Bureau, and those of you who've been following us on social media, et cetera, by the way, if you're not following on social media, do that right now. All right, please do that right now. Those of you who have been following us on social media know that we are opposed to this bill. We oppose this bill, this Bureau bill, for a number of different reasons. I want to talk about that quickly. I also want to share a little bit more about why we oppose the study bill, although I think you kind of get why we would oppose a study bill, but let me just talk more about that too. Because it matters to the money. It matters to the budget. It matters to the funding. Because this and the study, the funding for the study, we made the case are a waste and a misappropriation of taxpayers' time and money. This and the study are a waste and a misappropriation of taxpayer time and money. A waste of the $18 million. Okay? A misappropriation of the $18 million. Let me say more about that when I'm talking about this Bureau and why. So the Bureau says it will be for descendants of American slavery. The bill defines the descendants of American slavery as somebody who is a descendant of someone who was freed from chattel slavery in the United States, more or less, right? So that's the more or less description of how it defines descendants. If you specifically interested in how the bill defines the descendants, I would encourage you to go read it. It's in the definition section of the bill. But they're talking here about people whose ancestors were enslaved and freed from chattel slavery in these United States. That's who they're talking about. Although I know there are many of us who think descendants of American slavery is not a great descriptor of our people. But in the bill itself, that word descendants is defined more narrowly. So that's what I'm saying. Although it's defined, though, more narrowly to mean those of us whose ancestors built this country, it's also the case that the bill says that this Bureau, which is supposed to be for descendants, can and will also serve people who are not descendants. Specifically, as the bill says, other communities or communities that were identified that are not descendants, communities that are identified in the reparations report, other communities, other than descendants. If you read the final reparations report, there are probably like 13, 15 different other groups talked about, just mentioned and talked about, and so this bureau will and can support and serve people who are not descendants of those who were free from chattel slavery in these United States. Now, that is a problem no matter what.
Yes, especially since they took up about maybe 3 to 4 months. We had to fight the Pan-Africans that were a part of the task force representation. Dr. Cheryl Grills, I think she was the president of NARC. We had Lisa on there. Lisa Holder, I think was her name. Another Pan-African. We had Reginald Jones Sawyer, who's an assemblyman. No longer, but he was the jerk that was laughing at the reparationists who were on the Hill when these bills would never even see the light of day on the floor, that Isaac Bryan, who I spoke with you about earlier, who's popping his collar over a do-nothing bill for us to be considered at the very UCs we were denied when the Asians and the glacier donkeys down here in California upended affirmative action before they went about upending it nationwide. He was the one laughing and mocking the reparationists who were angry that Isaac Bryan would not bring the bills to the floor for a vote. Republican Klan Bill Asaley was trying to get the bills on the floor. And in so doing, he exposed that the California Legislative Black Caucuses never intended to bring it to the floor because at the time, Skamala was running for president and Governor Newscum didn't want to have to veto it if it passed. We fought long and hard and had to fight Don Tamaki too, Japanese, sitting up there on our task force. It was 4 of them against 5 who voted for lineage-based cash repair. Well, lineage-based reparations. And so what Dr. Shirley Weber, who is a Treasury Secretary for the state of California now, author of the AB 3121, who came in to help us fight for lineage-based reparations, her own daughter, Akilah Weber Pearson, who is now obfuscated $12 million, wants $6 million for a bureau that's going to be all-inclusive, undermining our fight for lineage-based reparations in the state of California. Everybody gets it now under her plan as a Pan-Africanist. Let's continue upending all of our work.
We know that's a problem. Like, just morally on the policy, so it's just wrong, but on the policy, it's bad. But on the financial and fiscal and budget part, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievably bad. How much? So we make the case that almost anybody in California, if this law is signed, if this bill is signed into law, almost anybody in California, descendant or not, no matter how they self-identify, could come to this bureau and get some stuff and get some of our reparations. There's 40 million people in California. How much is it going to cost? How much is this bureau? How do you fund a bureau that can give anybody reparations in California, almost anybody in California reparations? So this matters. This matters. I can tell you right now, it ain't $6 million. I can tell you right now, it's not $6 million. It's not.
That's the call to action that I've placed on the screen, that I've placed in the chat, that I've placed in the description of today's broadcast, that I just walked you through. We're telling Newscum to veto that bill. This one here.
So one of the problems we've had, and we've seen this in our own lives, is it's just like Black folks, right? Black Americans. And people notice if you had, if you grew up like a lot of us, where you had to, get government services. So if the government don't fund the services properly, if the government don't fund the administration properly, if the government don't fund the thing and the resources properly, that's the way to stop it, to cancel it. That's a way to not make it happen.
And that's what they seek to do.
I can tell you right now, this bill is already starting out underfunded. Already. Or if it's signed into law, this is nowhere near what's needed. And these funds are one-time funds. What you're looking at right now, the $6 million, is a one-time fund from what I read. One-time funds. So this bureau not only will serve everyone in California, it won't have enough money to serve even the people who are supposed to serve. So here's what we can do, family. We can tell the governor right now to veto, stop, cancel the study, SB 437, and the Bureau, SB 518 bills. One quick word, I didn't say that I was going to say more about the SB 437 study bill and how, and more about why we're opposing that and connected to the funding and the budget piece. So clearly, there's no need for no more reparations study. We did 2 years of study already. Those folks who say we need to study how to do genealogy and study how to create a process for people to to verify that they are descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. The genealogists say that that's a waste of time and money because that's already known. So there's no need to study that. They just need to create the process and then do the process. So no study, create, do. Okay? 437 says study and then recommend how to create later. Okay? So importantly here though, why is this important for the budget? Why is 437 important for the budget? Well, one, because it pulls from that, it pulls $6 million into from the budget into that study. But also, we've made the case that SB 437, that study, stops, slows, blocks, stalls, everything and anything else that comes after it until that study's done. So if you want to give descendants.
And we are out of time. The line is on the line.
Preferences in licensing in California. That has to wait now on the study. That's by the way, there's an actual bill for that now. It's AB 742.
And that's the goal of the demon rats. With the Negro vote, ethnic cleansing by economic genocide. We already suffer the highest rates of unemployment, underemployment, homelessness, and evictions throughout the country. And as California goes, the nation is going. We are the blueprint. We are the prototype for how to ethnocide the Negro and our justice claim. And the only weapons we got are our dollars to boycott all these immigrants and do business with one another, divest from the immigrants, and our vote. Vote against the immigrants, which is demon rats. Both parties are for it. Both parties are for it, but we were on a faster track to ethnic cleansing under Skamala than we are under Trump. And you've got to get out here and defeat them in the midterms. Because the minute they get control of this country again, the reparations that was spent to bring in 25 million unvetted, unvaxxed, and is now being spent to deport the illegals will be spent yet again to bring them back in here. That is who they work for. The whole government is immigrant run. Very few Negroes, and those who are there have sold out to immigrants. We are simply being taxed without representation. So, when the demon rats declare war on you, you don't vote blue no matter who, you unash your couch and you return the missile. To stave off your ethnic cleansing until we can get people from the soil in position to represent us as we fight for reparations and delineation. We got to use the only weapons we've got. Our voice, our vote, and our money. Not a whole lot of it. You're talking 1.7 trillion maybe. Mostly credit card debt when you're talking about the Negro, over-leveraged on debt, versus hundreds of trillion shared by the 282 million immigrants. The majority of our household dollars is owned by melanated immigrants who seek to erase and replace us in the country of our ancestors. We have nowhere to go. This is it. You need to weaponize your votes and socialize your suffering. Let Chris finish so I can read some of the comments and pray us out.
Bill has to wait for the study. That bill actually, well, I'll come back to that. But that bill has to wait for the study. If you want to give people, who had their property taken, their property back, well, if it's for descendants, that would have to wait for the study too. If you want to give students who are descendants preference in admissions in California colleges, which there's a bill to do that too, it's AB 7. We made the case that now has to wait for the study to end. That's the study is supposed to go until at least 2029, possibly 2030, but at least 2029.
So, how many of us will still be left in the state of California in 2029? We are the prototype. When you get rid of the Negro, you get rid of the justice claim. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
That means it will be at least until the 2030s before anybody can get anything, if at all. Okay? That's important for the budgeting and the funding of these things. Okay? Those things need to be funded. Those things would need and will need to be funded. Okay? So the funding of all this is important, and the blocking of all the things that come after SB 437 is important too. All the more reason, family, why you and I need to tell the governor to veto both SB 437 and SB 518, and also to make an issue with your state senator and your state assembly person who also voted. And let me just say it like this straight. Almost everybody who's watching this right now, probably, and who will watch it in California, almost every one of our state assembly people and state senators, state electeds voted for all of the things, or most of the things that we talked about today.
And why is that? Because they're mostly immigrants and sellout coon Negroes. Because y'all refuse to get out here and vote against the demon rats. This is demon rat down here. They run this. The very demon rats that like to come out during the elections and do a tap dance for you with hot sauce in their bag swag. Over there clowning with Roly-Poly Martin, teaching them line dancing and cooning with his tether ass. They want our position. And if we don't fight for the only country we know, with our voices, our votes, running for office, and our boycotts, we are finished as a lineage. These melanated tethers will have successfully, with the help of our government, erased and replaced us while keeping 13%. I've shared with y'all on many occasions that I was at an Office of Management and Budget meeting when they said, and I'm paraphrasing, that as they ethnically cleanse us by economic genocide with melanated immigrants who have nuclear families and money, that is why our percent does not grow beyond 13. They are controlling it, them and the government. Another way they control is to put abortion centers in our communities, starve us out so we can't afford to take care of our children, bring in moneyed, melanated, nucleared families, allow them to mark the Black American box for all the things our ancestors fought and died for us to have, while we disappear along with our justice claim. And he's telling you that right here and right now, that the goal is to starve us out. This is the blueprint and the prototype from the demon rats throughout every demon radically run city and state in this country where the majority of Negroes reside.
For that $12 million in the budget last year, to reappropriate, redirect, divert the money this year, to put the $6 million into a bureau, to have a study. Almost every single one of our state senators and state assembly people voted for that. So the question for us is, in addition to, have you reached out to the governor to tell him to veto SB 437? Have you reached out to the governor to tell him to veto SB 518? Have you reached out to the governor to tell him to put reparations in the budget, and to put reparations funding back in the budget, which you can also do, and we're also encouraging you to do now also. What about your state assembly people who are up for election next year? What about your state senators?
Well, I mean, if you 3% of the population, you've lost the war. There's no way to really defeat them at the polls. We don't have the numbers here. I'm trying to enlighten you who still got the numbers to stop the ethnocide of our lineage. That's why I'm over here trying to appeal to you on a 3-hour live already. Because it's happened to us out here. They are appealing to and doing for immigrants and illegals, and I read it to you in the budget with a $12 billion or more deficit. It's more than that.
And they come to your districts and come to your neighborhoods in the next 3 to 5 months, or when they're coming to your districts and your neighborhoods now, and asking for you to do things or support things, or maybe they're asking, maybe they're telling you that they're going to run. Tell them that you want them to tell you why you should support them if they help divert, take away the reparations funding in the budget from last year and put it to a study and somebody's nonprofit organization this year. Okay. What's up, family? I see you. Great question. AFBM. No, we don't. We're not asking the governor to veto the $6 million. We're asking the governor because that $6 million, that's already passed. So that's already happened. What we're asking the governor to do is veto SB 518, the bill that $6 million would go to. And then also the other bill that the other part of that money would go to also. That's Senate Bill SB 437. And I'm glad you asked, because in the chat right now, I am going to post the links for you to take the call to action right now. We're asking folks to take this call to action right now. Do it right now. Share it with your cousin, with your brother, with your aunt, with your uncle, with your mother, with your father, with your sister.
Make it go
share
viral.
It with your coworker. I just don't mess up your job, but share it with everybody. Share it with some strangers on social media. Share it with anybody, everybody that you can, and then take the action yourself multiple times. All right. Send an email. Send a letter. Send an email today. Do it tomorrow. Do it the day after, et cetera, et cetera. So put this in the chat for you right now. And then please, family, again, take this action. Do it now, do it now, do it now. And if you have any questions, you have any thoughts about it, please do let us know as well. It's in the chat for you right now. Boom, boom. You should be able to get it or see it. All right. Let me know if it's not clickable or it's also available on all of our social medias as well.
Okay, family, that's enough. It's late. Oh. I'm going to go from the bottom and just deal with the pertinent comments concerning the reparations portion of the broadcast because the hour's late and I'm angry. So yeah, I need to get some rest. Friedman says veto Prop 209. One of the things we've got to do is show up and defeat their bills when they come to the floor. Like, that's the challenge. Negroes are scratching and surviving out here. I told you need $115,000 to buy damn near $1 million home. Your house note is going to be between $5,000 and $6,000, depending on your FICO, per month. So, yeah, it's just those of us that are remaining here. We've got to make it happen for ourselves and our families, because sadly, when you're dealing with unemployment and underemployment, you don't really have $20,000 to relocate. You don't have the time to wait. If you already have a job out here, you don't have time to wait to see if they're going to hire you someplace else where you really don't want to be. When you descend from slavery, when you descend from the emancipated, rather, you deserve to live wherever you damn well please and flourish. And if that's not happening with the demon rats, then perhaps what I'm recommending makes more sense: to weaponize the vote and to boycott immigrant-run businesses and only do business with each other. Thank you, Michael Pan. He signed the petition. Hold on one second. I can't see that too well. I've been stopped begging. I want to come back and fight. I know that's right, Friedman. We still fighting. You could do it from wherever you at. Pinky says Californians vote no on 50. It's supported by Gavin Newscum and AOC. What? Restart Chrome to block risky notifications. No. Not doing that right now. Okay. Vote no on 50, guys. It's supported by Newscum and AOC. Friedman, you're looking for the petition to sign it. If you scroll up, you'll see it because I posted it there. Hold on. I'm going up. Real deal. Welcome to the live. Everybody else changing their game strategy. We keep running it up the middle. Well, that's why I've introduced my Negro protest voter strategy. It was effective to get Trump in office the last election cycle. I need to defeat we need to defeat the demon rats, because that's who we've been loyal to. That and the couch. We need to defeat both. And when you're dealing with immigrants and illegals who outnumber you and who are able in the state of California, they don't require ID at the polls. They can vote and been voting illegally, and those votes have been counting. So to not vote against the demon rats is playing Negro roulette with the line. We got to do something, or we're finished. Real Deal says, yeah, because they taken $6 million in buying one building to research demon trickery. A lot of this money is just being laundered. And like he said, it's not any real money to make us whole at all. And now she wants to give it to everyone and upend the very lineage-based reparations we fought for 2 years. Moonduck Maximus says, I must say it is a lot of immigrants in my neighborhood. Yeah, all over the country. It's a whole takeover with the Negro vote, or lack thereof. Well, Real Deal, we don't talk about buying out warehouses and getting our own jobs because we don't have the money for that. You need to tune in to my live from last week, where I talk about how our national median income is $56,000. The national median home price is $500,000. We have the lowest median incomes in the country. The immigrants / glacier donkeys, they're all immigrants, 282 million of them. Their salaries are better, and they've got higher rates of employment than we do, because they're in charge of the hiring tables. So it's cute to romanticize about owning our own and giving out our own jobs. But this government has been instrumental in making sure we stay on the bottom, because capitalism requires a bottom caste. And the 282 million immigrants have decided we are it. They will fail. Yeah, we're protected, but we got to ensure they fail. And we've got to use what we've got. Like I said, when the demon rats are in control of the country, Negroes are the only ones in distress. But when you put the repugnant clans in charge, that distress is shared. And my distress welcomes company. Yeah, Friedman, we could use you back in Cali, baby, but I mean, they priced us out. I think the average rent for a 1-bedroom is around $2,500. The average rent for a 2-bedroom, I want to say, is around $3,500 or more. Many of these places don't even have parking. You still have to park on the streets. It's not the time to come back. These prices have got to drop. We're not finished yet, Moonduck Maximus. That's why I'm here, to try to prevent us from being finished. We're very close to it. And like I said, when you have a government and an Office of Management and Budget that will not allow you to delineate, you don't even know of the blacks in this country who's Negro descendant of the emancipated and who's a melanated immigrant tether. You don't know. You have no idea. You have no clue. Because we don't have delineation like the Asians and the Latinos. Because their representatives actually fight for them to have tangibles. Yeah, Amos Brown was co-chair of the task force. He really undermined us. When they were trying to give cash reparations to San Francisco, he came out with a hit piece of a letter opposing cash reparations and offering instead more just over broke jobs, public housing, and some remedial education. The same stuff that's rendered us bottom caste in the country of our ancestors. So Amos did us in as the co-chair of the task force. In the end, he really undermined us. Well, I get, real deal, that the repugnant clans are just as guilty as the demon rats. They're literally collaborating to undermine and upend us. But tragically, y'all can't get us caught up in a perpetual cycle of lesser of two evil voting. They want to vote the couch when the line is on the line. You got to pick a lesser of two evil so we can back ourselves up out of this thing here. But to continue to vote blue no matter damn who and voting the couch, it's fast tracking our ethnic cleansing by economic genocide. So we two-stepped our way into a two-party system. The only way out is to punish the very people responsible for us being here. That's the demon rats. That's who y'all, by and large, vote for. I stopped this nonsense since Obama. Now I'm trying to educate you on what you need to do to survive. And the way to survive is to weaponize your vote and socialize your suffering so that you're not the only ones in distress. I'm rolling up, y'all. Friedman says, yep, they pushed me out. They ostracized me and tried to smoke me out. Literally, the civil rights group work with the police, tech companies, hack my phone for the black tethers and gov. Oh yeah, they'll go and tell pro us for fighting for the lineage. No lies detected. That's why I'm shadow banned and demonetized. I've been speaking against this since Joe Crow. Under Joe Crow, Crooked Hillary, Skamala, the pandemic. Yeah. But I'm trying to find my tribe that's ready for the revolution, which is being social mediaized. See, these are the type of comments I really don't care for, real deal. We getting rid of ourselves. Wherever there's poverty, you're going to see black on black crime and murder. You're going to see white on white crime and murder. And if you don't delineate, how do you know it's us getting rid of us? And not a melanated immigrant getting rid of us. They bring their culture of debauchery here and want to obfuscate everything great about us, but leave us with their debauchery. So we can't talk about us getting rid of ourselves if we're not prepared to have an honest conversation about the war on drugs, the war on poverty, and the ethnic cleansing of the Negro by economic genocide with immigrants that are dumped into our communities unvetted and unvaxxed. want to hear this one-sided conversation about us getting rid of each other, when the system is designed to that very end. Yes, you are God's chosen. You better know it. Night Rider, high found. Foreigners, immigrants have infiltrated our government. Yeah. With y'all's vote for identity and respectability pie tricks over real tangibles. Now, I'm not screaming at you, Night Rider. I'm talking about the collective. How in the world does Kamala, who says she ain't doing nothing specific for the Negro, get 90% of black, to go out here and vote for her, and 77% of flat black men to vote for her? And I get cussed out for leading a Negro protest voter strategy. So it's the black vote that has upended us in government. It is why we are simply being taxed without representation. SJ, why are you talking about Temu and Dollar Tree? Listen, I get that you can't avoid shopping with 282 million immigrants who have taken over our communities through gentrification, immigration, and illegals. But do your best. For example, I've got a black-owned grocery store in my neighborhood. It may take me 2, sometimes 3 stores to get all my groceries, but I shop with her first. These are ways that you can adjust it so you can do business and the dollars can start to recycle back into our own communities. Find your people to do business with. And slowly but surely, I have a black hairstylist. She's Negro, descendant of the emancipated. I don't go to the Dominicans like a lot of Negro women do. I don't go to the Africans. Both of them are ducking up our hair. That's why you see people whose edges are thinning. The products that they're using on our hair is taking out the Negro hair. So I go to a Negro stylist who listens to me and does what I tell her to do. These are ways. Find Negroes that can do your manicures, your pedicures. Find Negroes where you can buy your hair accessories from. Your wigs, your weaves, whatever it is you like to do to beautify yourself. Find Negroes to do it with. Find them online. Make it a mission to be about helping the Negro to flourish. Stop giving your money away to immigrants who hate you and want your position. We're so close, people. Trump is delineating for us and pushing it hard. He pushed it this week. Well, Trump is helping the Negro, whether directly or indirectly. He is helping the Negro more than any demon rat president ever has. Even when they gave us civil rights, they were finding ways to obfuscate it and backdoor it by ushering in immigration. Even once we fought and won our emancipation, they took our 40 acres and a mule and gave Ellis Island European immigrants an American way of life with a Homestead Act that continues to this day. It's called student loan debt erasure. We're not degreed to the degree that they're degreed. So when Joe Crow is talking about erasing student loan debt, he's talking about immigrants, not those of us who are foundational to this country. It's the same thing you saw here on tonight's broadcast, where Chris shared with you Akilah Weber Pearson, Dr. Shirley Weber's own daughter, is undermining us, trying to get another 6 million that will go to everybody. This is what they do. And that's why we have to stay in the fight. Keep our head on swivel. Follow the money. Keep talking. Keep showing up. Keep doing lives to educate the people so they can circumvent what we've been through. Learn from us as your great examples of what you don't want the South to become. Because where are you going when the South becomes California, and with what? So Trump has been better for the Negro than any demon rat and repugnant clan that I know. Although I think, and don't quote me, I think George Bush Jr. did 6% SBA loans to the Negroes versus Obama's 2%. That is a vote I wish I could take back. I wish I had not wasted my time going to his inauguration. I didn't do it the second time. I really regret it. I really regret that I allowed my family to get me stuck on stupid demon rat plantation, voting for identity and respectability politics. I really resent it, because I participated in how we got here. But I'm woke now. This is God's battle, sis. Who do you think God is? Genesis 1:26. Who do you think God is? It ain't no white Neptune cat sitting up in the sky. It's you. You are the image likeness of God. If it's going to get done, it's going to get done by you, me, us, we. Yes, in birthright citizenship. I've already done a broadcast on this, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But these demon rats are hell-bent. That's all Skamala ran on was abortion. That's intended for us, as if giving 100 million babies back to God ain't sufficient, as she allows illegals to birth citizens with our 14A. End it. Support not just black business, fam. Remember, black is flat in this country. Support the Negro freedman descendant of the emancipated business. If they ain't that, keep it moving. Integration assimilation was an economic and political trap. Absolutely, fam. We gave up ownership, entrepreneurship to go work for less than American wage. And were used to build the wealthiest country on less than American wage for them to usher in immigrants and illegals to become more American before we flourish. Black economic markets and Black self-sufficient products. Negro economic markets and Negro self-sufficient products. I'm done with flat blackness. Y'all like my little angism. Skamala. That's right, baby. I said it. The birthright citizenship is in Supreme Court now. They argue part of it today. In birthright citizenship, and we good in the hood. Not all the way, family. And especially if the demon rats get back in control. I just shared with you earlier in the broadcast, they're on the hill about to shut the government down because they demand health care for illegals. You can't make this shit up. Okay, we're at 11:30, family. I'm going to stop this and do my declare and decree and pray us out. I apologize. I didn't leave enough time to get through all of your comments. I will try to look through them and respond. I want to thank all of you as my co-hosts in the chat for keeping it lit. I want to thank all of you who took time out of your Sunday evening to bless me with a view. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I've got over 400 videos that you can peruse and really get into the mind of the reparationist perspective and the work I do, which doesn't get a lot of glory because I was the one speaking out against immigration while we were fighting for reparations on the task force. So I'm not a favorite because I understood that they were diametrically opposed. So the things that Chris is speaking on right now are the things my third eye showed me long before he was speaking on it. We were still in the process, winding it down. But every time I blessed that mic, I was talking about immigration and how the demon rats were weaponizing our never-ending Holocaust to erase and replace us with immigrants. And I was right. And so I thank you, 28% who roll with me on the Negro protest voter strategy. I'm all over these social media streets. But the moral of the broadcast, put the mask on the Negro. Get everyone else off the tip. Make the demon rats pay for their intentional neglect and ethnic cleansing of the Negro by economic genocide with immigrants and illegals alike. We need to deport, close the borders, and we also need a moratorium on legal immigration. So, it took y'all 70 years of voting for them to get us to the bottom of the Titanic. It's probably going to take about that long to get up off the bottom of the Titanic, called America with 3 Ks. But when the demon rats have declared war on you, you return the missile. You let them expend all this energy lying and fighting with the repugnant clans. Let the immigrants, the 282 million, let them implode. You sit back in your soft life, eat your popcorn, sip your tea. But let them destroy themselves. Because if this current system isn't destroyed, we are finito. Done. And I've got a daughter. And prayerfully, she'll go on to have a family. So that's my grandkids and my great-grandkids. That's why I'm in this fight. Weaponize your vote. Socialize your suffering. So we're not the only ones in distress on the demon rat plantation. With that being said, family, I declare and decree that the highest form of righteous judgment is served over all corrupt beings of the government, judicial system, including the police officers, demon rats, repugnant clans, immigrants, illegals, CPS Child Protective Services, judges, attorneys, FBI agents, the CIA, and all personnel working for the U.S. corporation with 3 Ks with wicked intentions. All hidden corruption and agendas are now destroyed forevermore in spirit and in flesh, in sleep and in awakened states, across all timelines, realms, and dimensions, known and unknown. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever the Negro freedman descendant of the emancipated is, and our allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again, family, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening, early morning, and work week. And until we meet again, family, I believe it for each and every one of us, a ton of peace, love, reparations, deportations, closed borders, boycotts, delineation. The list just keeps on growing, y'all. And just always know, y'all, I love y'all. Yes, I do. Negro freedmen strong. Yes, I do. I'm in this fight until times get better for the Negro. I'm here. I intend to see you, if not next Sunday, next Saturday. Okay? I'm intending to come back. I can only do this once a week. I apologize. Everything else is a major priority. Makes it difficult to get here as often as I'd love to. While the list of things I want to share with you grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. But I like to be thorough. I like to chew the elephant one bite at a time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let it go by.